Hello, hello, hello. I am
Hello.
Alison Motta and go. Sorry, you say hello, hello, hello too.
Hello, my friends. It's Melanie Little. We're here together. Ladies who lawyer. We like to do
Yes.
this. Thanks,
Of,
Allie, for having me.
of course, of course. I'm bringing you the special edition, the dish on Delphi with, as she said, the beautiful, the smart, the amazing attorney Melanie Little, who also has a YouTube channel. So if you're not following her, do it. Tell us a little about yourself, Melanie.
Oh, hi. I am a New York lawyer with 30 years experience litigating. I'm a trial lawyer. I'm a civil litigator. I, among other things, sued the Catholic Church on behalf of many, many victims of clergy child SA. That was my most noteworthy cases, but I have turned YouTuber.
There you go.
So, I'm here for it.
And
And I'm
for those
practicing, unlike you. You have 2 lives.
Right. For those of you who don't know, I am a practicing criminal defense attorney, and Defense Diaries, the podcast, and the corresponding YouTube is my husband, Bob Motta's project and baby that he's kind of roped me into. And I am here in Carroll County because he had to be at a podcast convention in New York, where you are. So I am a criminal defense attorney. I am still practicing, and I like when he brought me into the podcast, it was sort of easier. I could not have to worry about what I looked like. Just, he asks me some questions, I follow some leads. And I know those of you who have been sort of watching this channel know I kind of hated the merge into video. I don't have to worry about like, okay, now I have to worry about what I look like and make sure that there's lights because that always helps. And I'm much more comfortable when there's two of us. It kills me when it's one of us. Yesterday I did the first one with me alone. I mean, technically Friday I did, but Friday I feel like shouldn't count because I was using Bob's notes from trial, reading that and kind of bringing everyone that. But yesterday was the first time I did it by myself, and it's getting easier. But Melanie and I have been talking about doing this because Melanie is your place to go for Karen Reed. She is like still following that. She's on top of everything, and she just hasn't had the time to deep dive into the Delphi matter, the Richard Allen trial. So we're doing this as more of like an introduction level. So there may be some of you in the chat who like know everything and maybe even know more than me because Bob is the one that knows like all the deep stuff, up to speed on everything that's happened at trial and many of it. But maybe there'll be people in the chat who know even more than I do. But you've got a general gist, right, Mel?
Collaborative. Yeah, I do have a general. I mean, I did before I started my own channel. I used to go on and guest host a lot with Duty on. And so we were covering this. I would just look back. I have an actual file on this case.
Wow.
So we did a show back in June of 2023. And that was when they were trying to move Richard Allen because he's been held in a prison all this time. They were trying to get him moved to a jail because he had lost 40 pounds. And he was in solitary. It was bad. So I think that's the last time I covered it. But it's a very interesting case, and I've been just really, really interested in it ever since they filed that motion about Odinism.
Yes, the Frank's motion at the defense law. So let me give you guys again, because we're going to treat this as an intro. So for those of you that don't know, and one of the things about this case is that the judge is not allowing audio, she's not allowing video, she has a limited amount of press she's allowing in and a limited amount of public. So the public has very little options of where to go. And I will tell you, from what I am picking up when I'm personally in trial to what the mainstream media is reporting, I'm finding it to be very different. Although I'm not following the mainstream media, so I'm only noting it when someone sort of brings it to my attention. Like, look what they said on this, this outlet said. So it's important that we've got lawyers out here trying to bring you all the details that we can. So Richard Allen, no. So this case involves Liberty German and Abigail Williams, 13 and 14-year-old girls who were killed on February 13th of 2017. They were home from school. It was a beautiful day. They went out to the bridge. I'm about to play a video. Actually, maybe I should play the video while I give you this little update. It makes much more sense. Let's do this now.
Yeah, so Ali and Bob are boots on the ground in Delphi as we speak. And you went to the bridge, right? I'm so curious. I have so many questions. People are sleeping outside the courthouse with sleeping bags to try and get into court. Luckily, you didn't have to do that.
Right.
But it's people are saying this is like Karen Reed level corruption, maybe even worse. Like people, like that's what people are saying who have followed this case.
I mean, there is a lot going on. So pre-trial has been a huge issue with the lack of transparency, with
Mhm.
people, things not being made of record, filings not hitting the record, and everyone feeling, especially when they tried to remove Richard Allen's attorneys, the judge did. That's sort of what got Bob up in arms. Otherwise, he was kind of sitting back waiting to see what happened. But once it was like this guy, who, as you just said, was being held in prison, not a jail, in solitary confinement, being denied access to his lawyers or access without video cameras on them, infringing on the confidentiality and the ability for the client to feel comfortable, and then removing her lawyers, calling them. There was a leak that the judge attributed to the defense team. Someone associated with the defense team had unwittingly gone in and taken photos of stuff, and that sort of leaked out. Not sort of, it got spread around. The judge called the lawyers incompetent or grossly negligent and took them off the case. And it took all the way up to the Supreme Court to say, no, you can't do that. So people's, red flags were up.
Yeah.
There is a lot of other talk. It's a very small community. So the community knows things. They're talking about things and the players involved. And so there is some of that. Is there some level of corruption going on? I can't speak to all of that. Um, I guess knowledge of the townspeople and some of these other things as much as I'm sure people in the chat even can, but there is some
Mhm.
of that going on as well. So let me play this little video for you guys and um, give you the update. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Karen Reed was out on bail and had her
yeah,
trial streamed with one of the best defense lawyers in the country, says DB. RA is in isolation in prison and is an indigent defendant.
so
Big
there's
difference.
Abby and Libby. That's Libby, Liberty Germain. She was 14 and she was very athletic. She did a lot of sports. That's Libby. They were very, very best, like very close friends, best friends. That's the bridge. So this is the picture. This is the bridge that the girls were on that day. And let me just go back. And this is Abby on the bridge, a Snapchat taken that day by Libby at 2. No, let me make sure I give the right time.
Snapchat. Snapchat is what got Alec Murdoch, in my opinion.
Snapchat?
Mhm. He lied about being down at the kennels, and then there was a Snapchat video
Right.
showing him there. So this Libby may have solved her own murder by taking these pictures, right?
Yeah, actually, if I keep playing, it's gonna give us all the time, so I'm just gonna keep
They're
letting
like
it go.
babies. Oh, it's so sad.
That's the bridge. It goes all the way down to a private drive at the end, and that's the Delphi Trails. It's the historic Delphi Trails, the Moon High Bridge. That's like you're seeing how deep it is. Now this
Wait, are
is
there no railings on either side of that?
there are no railings on either side. You can go
That's
back.
like walking a tightrope. That's
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, it's very scary. It sounds like the parents didn't know that the girls were going on this bridge. They did get dropped off by Liberty's older sister, Kelsey, and apparently it's something that a lot of kids, they do go on.
Wow. So who took that? So, or did her friend take the Snapchat video? Did
The
Abby take
Snapchat
that
was
Snapchat
Abby.
video? Right.
Yep,
Okay.
she took that. And then this picture right here is a picture that the press took of Ron Logan, and we'll talk about him some more. He's at the property sort of um, up at the end of the road that leads into to that you drive on to get into the Monon Bridge. and that's him standing down, and that's the tape, the caution tape.
They have
So
crime scene tape in
crime
Delphi.
scene
That's
tape,
good.
yep. So, you can see sort of kind of it's a lot closer than I thought to the creek, because I'm assuming that crime scene tape is where the bodies were found within that somewhere. So it's a lot closer to the water than I thought. I thought it was up, that it was up higher. Um,
So
but
this is, you're saying this, the crime scene tape here is near where the bodies were found?
yeah,
And is the bridge that the girls went over on the other side of that creek that we're looking at?
way up high, but yes, sort of like I didn't realize this because the way it goes, and we're gonna pull up a map so you'll see it, but it's like it's going one way, but then it comes all the way up and then it wraps back around. So um this area would be um well, I'll show you when the map gets a little bit
Okay.
bigger. So, but apparently that's press kind of catching him down there. He's taking a picture of his own down there, and press is taking a picture of him taking that picture,
Mm,
my understanding. Um, and he's one of the characters. So this is the bridge. What the bridge looks like now is like where you see the blue. Let's go back. Oh, all right, just want to mess with me, I guess. So they repaired the bridge. So this part right here is all new. So when I went out there, I could only get to here. And to tell you the truth, I thought the bridge ended like almost where we're kind of like seeing, like somewhere around there. So
mhm.
until today, when I was digging more into it, and we've got Dizzy and Mandy, they sent me more maps. Sleuthy Goosey sent me more maps. Joe Schmo worked on a really amazing map that you guys are going to see here
Cool.
at some point as well. But that I realized that when the girls, wherever they were, when they were told to go down, if you think of it this way, right? And you're like, okay, well, the water's here, so they're on the other side. It ends up kind of not being true because the way it wraps up and around, they're at like a way different part of the creek that wraps closer to um, sort of closer to the private road that you're going to see in a bit as well. So I could only get this far when I was up there because
Hmm.
they have it blockaded. This is still the original. The original bridge is still there on that side. So now this is a wide view of it. Over here is the so over here is the CPS building where so Richard Allen parked down this road way over here. We'll get into it.
Mhm.
But the sister that dropped them off dropped the girls off right here. They call this Mayor's Entrance. This is the mayor's farm. Down here is the cemetery. Now I parked down here, and this little path, it's on the path, it's a marking on the map, shows you where the bodies were found and then where the clothes were found. So here's the cemetery. This is Ron Logan's farm, the guy that was down there taking the picture. And then the bridge, when you look at the bridge, it comes all the way down. Oh, maybe now I'm not looking at the bridge right. Wait. It's well, there's another screen, so we'll look at it all. But this is where the Snapchat, it was 2:15, and let me get back to the screen. So it was 2:13 that the Snapchat was. So when you get to the next screen, you're gonna see this kind of road down at if you look all the way down at the bottom of the screen, there's like a little road there, or
Mhm.
that's a private road that leads to the Weber house. Um, so, and I had thought the Weber's house was at the end of this 500, 300 road that the cemetery's on, but it's below it. So it's like, let's let the video keep going and you'll see. So that's a getting closer up video to so this one, now you're looking at the private road. So this is the bridge. It ends at this private road
Mhm.
where when I was there again looking at it, I assumed it ended shortly after the water and that there was a hill here that the girls would have gone down. No, you're talking all the way down here. They got to the end, cross over, and then there's a hill. Now that's the difference between the state's case and the defense's case. In their openings, the defense says, we think they went down the hill and were taken to that private road. Somebody drove them away from the area and then brought them back at 4 o'clock in the morning or, whenever. And that's when they were unalived. And that's when they left. The state says that Richard Allen, the girls were taken around 2, and Richard Allen took them to down the hill and then through the creek into that area. And then he was interrupted. He was going to, assault them, but or have his way with them, but he was interrupted, and he left. But on the other side, the defense opening said, well, we have the phone data. The phone was off. It wasn't receiving any messages after 5 o'clock. And I'll get more into the details here, but the phone came back on at 4 a.m. A flood of messages came in, and that's when they say that the girls were brought back using
Whose phone are you talking about? Richard Allen's phone or one of the girls'
Libby's
phone?
phone. One of the
Libby's
girls'
phone.
phone. Only Libby had a phone.
Okay.
Her and Abby were so close that she put Abby's fingerprint could also unlock the phone. So that's the private road that the defense is saying was used to take the girls away and then bring them back.
And the bodies were found
You're going to see it in the next.
at what
the
time?
On the next day, the following day, on the 14th
Mhm.
at 12 p.m. Sometime shortly around 12 p.m. I'll give you more when I look at my notes, and it's probably in the next the next video picture anyway. What did I do with did I stop sharing it? What happened?
Yeah, I dream sober from the little that I know about this case. That was my initial gut feeling on this. There's been a gag order on this case, right? So we don't have a lot of information.
Right.
So everything that you heard during openings, I heard there were some bombs dropped that nobody really knew about, right? So I'm sure you'll get to that. Tell us.
Yeah, I'll let the video play and then I'll get into the
Mhm.
openings, and yeah, that's probably I
And
don't know
also
why.
for my viewers who have been, single thread Karen Reed with me for a year or 2 years, I've been doing it for almost a year. Richard Allen wasn't arrested until more than 5 years after this crime.
Yep, we're gonna get into all that. But it's crazy. Now that's the video, and I'll tell you guys about how that got released and when it got released. That's who they claim to be, is Richard Allen.
I mean, it could be anybody.
This is a sketch that was um, drawn in July of 2017, released in July of 2017. This is a sketch that was released in April, but we're going to get into when those were drawn. Now, that picture is him when he was arrested. This is a gentleman who was sending messages and involved in, I think it was child pornography. This is Ron Logan. That was one of the other suspects. He owns that property there. That's also Ron Logan. He's now deceased. That's Richard Allen.
Oh, he's now deceased.
Yes.
Yeah, and this was after he lost something like 40 pounds at least in prison, right?
Yes. He was when he was in solitary. That's also obviously, while he's in prison.
I have questions about what
Yeah.
happened to him while he was in custody.
A lot. That's the judge. That's Judge Gull. That's the judge everyone's sort of up in arms with. That is the prosecutor, McClelland. And he's the lead prosecutor. There's the defense attorneys. You've got Brad Ross. Rosie is the younger gentleman, and Andy Baldwin. That's the Supreme Court that they had to go up to in order to get back on the case.
Unbelievable. She just removed them as attorneys on sua sponte, or did some like
No, yes,
Richard Allen didn't ask to have them relieved, right?
No, he specifically asked to not have them relieved. And what I would like to do, what I'd like to start with, because this is the day that I went out there, and I just think it's good to start to honor the victims. So this is the memorial that's been created, and it's right at the once you go through the same entrance I went in, the entrance that the girls went in, that is right at the bridge. And that's a memorial. And on that memorial right now, there is a letter that just a neighborhood girl left. And it says, "Dear Abby and Libby, you never met me. You never interacted with me. You never heard of me, but you've guided me. The circumstances of me hearing about you girls weren't what they should have been. However, the legacy and joy you both brought to this world is something I will always aspire to bring. In y'all's honor, love, devotion, wit, brains, and happiness is what the world needs right now. So I may not be able to give you both the true justice you deserve. I can use your virtues of love, creativity, kindness, athleticism, baking cookies for life for Abby, and crafting for life for Abby. Love, live, and light up the world like the girls did, and this world will have incredible times ahead. May both of your beautiful souls rest in peace with much love and vengeance for justice. Sam."
Wow. And these are pictures that you took
Yeah,
the other day?
when I went up the other day. Yeah. So I thought that that was a good way to sort of start out. And um, one of the other pictures that I took while I was there. So again, I parked at the cemetery. So this is the bottom of the cemetery. And it's down here, and like there's a deep ditch and a ravine um, that the bodies were found. And the bridge would be somewhere, like over and back here. But back in February when this occurred, there would have been no leaves on the trees.
Right.
So, and this is from on top of the bridge, which is sort of where I thought that they would have gone down somewhere, but I'm looking totally at the wrong side. It's like around, way around, but you can see right into the water. It's very clear. You can see the rocks. I was kind of surprised that you could see right in, because I know at one point there was a statement where Richard Allen said he was up there, at least what I've heard, that he was up there looking at the fish, but that isn't something that's been discussed in court yet.
Hmm.
So yeah, like you said, this happened in February of 2017, and he didn't get arrested until, you'd think I'd have that arrest date right at my
I
fingertip.
have it. It's October 2022.
All right. So let's talk about, I think it's helpful to know like who was on the bridge and everyone they spoke to. So there was a lot of people on the bridge that day. And I can tell you this. So the road, that 300 road, that, oops, that is where the cemetery is. That's where I parked. It's where the girls got dropped off from. Had a lot of traffic the other day when I was there. There's people up and down, and there was a lot of traffic that day. There was a lot of people out on the bridge, walking the trails, and that saw people, saw girls, saw what's being now called Bridge Guy. But you've got various sketches that were drawn, and we learned a lot about the sketches at the last hearing before the day of trial, because the state filed a motion to keep the defense from being able to use the sketches.
Those sketches look to me like it's like a father and his son. I mean, there's like a 30-year age difference to me in those sketches.
They said they're the same person.
Okay,
They
to
said they
me,
are.
like, no.
So here's what's interesting. What they're now saying, what they said in opening, that is the same person. But I'd like to play you the press conference, okay? And this came out, this press conference was released in April 22nd of 2019. So the sketch that had been out to date as of that time, oops, did I not boot that one up here to give you guys? What'd I do? Hold on. Okay. Let me pull it up. So Sleuthy sent me all 4 of the sketches. Now there's only 2. Those 2 that you saw are the ones that we always talk about, but I'm going to pull up this one first to show you guys. And this is what was released first, although not the first sketch that they actually received, but it's the one that looks much more like Richard Allen. And as I've been sort of looking at these, it's so that's the first sketch that was released.
And
And
that was
now
released when?
that was released on, got all that. That was released. It wasn't done until June 19th of 2017. And
So
it
4
was
months post.
It was first published on July 17th of 2017 is when it was released to the public. Now, this is based off a witness. Her name's Sarah Carball, on the account of who she saw. So she said she saw this man walking on 300 North while she was driving, heading past him. So let me pull up the, well, first, let me show you a picture of what Richard Allen looked like back then. And this is the best I can get. The picture that was in that slide was the one that the press put there. That was when he was arrested. But these are pictures, and I'll tell you when they're from. They're from December and November of 2016. So it's a couple of months before, but it's stuff that Sleuthy Goosey took off of the Facebook before they got pulled down, really.
Sleuthy Goosey is the best.
Yeah. So that's him. It's a picture with him and his wife. I cut out his wife. And that's in December. No, I'm sorry, November. This is also in November 28th and 29th. This is December. So you can see the hair is growing in more. I added that even though you can't see his face very well because I didn't want to seem like I'm only showing you pictures where he's got zero, peach fuzz.
Yeah.
But his hair is very short. It's always very short. That's something that they focused on, in the defense's opening. And then that's one more basically from the same day with his wife. So that's what he looked like. And then I'm going to show you the press release that came out. So again, that first sketch is the only thing that had been released. And then this is their press conference. So it's very interesting. Oh, Lord. I got to pull the screen.
Thank you, Sarah B. Creative, for your super chat. K-Wags, thank you. Says I tagged Defense Diaries in a tweet about the Gull of Gull.
Thank you very much.
The Gull of Gull. If any case needed cameras and transparency, it's this one. Keep up the good work, ladies and Bob.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So this thing's messing with me. All right. Share screen. There we go. That should be right. I have to hit play. Oh, I'm playing at a different screen, you guys. Like, why can't you see it and hear it? I'm doing all the things that Bob, that I can say to Bob when he does.
You'll get the hang of it one of these days. It's going to be amazing. Don't worry.
All right. So I've got to do it like this. That's what's happening. Come back to StreamYard. Not have Bridge Guy open here. Oh, all right. Now this should work.
Yeah, Bob is very passionate about this case. I listen to you guys on this case, and he is. The more you hear about it, the more you get it.
Well, yeah, it's easy to get passionate. And again, like, I don't know if Richard Allen's guilty or innocent. I'm not trying to say he's innocent, but it was easy to get passionate when somebody's rights are getting trampled on.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean, just the conditions that he's been kept in for over 2 years.
For sure. And I haven't heard a lawyer who's not outraged, shocked, and like, what's going on? Like, this is crazy world. You know,
I mean, for those of you who don't know, you're supposed to be held in a jail, like a county jail, until you're convicted. Then you go to the pen, like the big prison. This guy's been in a prison the whole time because allegedly the warden of the jail said, we can't protect him here, right?
Exactly.
There's so much sus.
The Delphi community, how grateful I am. You inspire people that you don't even understand, and you don't even understand why. Information is being released today is the result of literally thousands and thousands of hours of extraordinary investigative efforts by Delphi, Carroll County, the FBI, the Indiana State Police, and countless other agencies. This community surrounded us some 26 months ago, and you did everything you could to support us, but most importantly, you surrounded the family of these two little girls. Gosh, I'll never forget it. After you hear what we're going to release today, I'm going to ask for your continued support, your continued understanding, your empathy and compassion as we move forward to find out who did this, and we will. We're seeking the public's help to identify the driver of a vehicle that was parked at the old CPS DCS welfare building in the city of Delphi that was abandoned on the east side of County Road 300 North next to the Hoosier Heartland Highway between the hours of noon to 5 on February 14th, 2017. If you were parked there or know who was parked there, please contact the officers at the command post at the Delphi City Building. We are releasing additional portions of the audio recording from that day. Please keep in mind, the person talking is one person and is the person on the bridge with the girls. This is not two different people speaking. Please listen to it very, very carefully. We are also releasing video recovered from Libby's phone. This video has never before been previously released. The video shows a suspect walking on the bridge. When you see the video, watch the person's mannerisms as they walk. Watch the mannerisms as he walks. Do you recognize the mannerisms as being someone that you might know? Remember, he is walking on the former railroad bridge. Because of the deteriorated condition of the bridge, the suspect is not walking naturally due to the spacing between the ties. During the course of this investigation, we have concluded the first sketch released will become secondary as of today. The result of the new information and intelligence over time leads us to believe the sketch, which you will see shortly, is the person responsible for the murders of these two little girls. We also believe this person is from Delphi, currently or has previously lived here, visits Delphi on a regular basis, or works here. We believe this person is currently between the age range of 18 and 40, but might appear younger than his true age. Directly to the killer, who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight. For more than 2 years, you never thought we would shift gears to a different investigative strategy, but we have. We likely have interviewed you or someone close to you. We know that this is about power to you. And you want to know what we know. And one day you will. A question to you. What will those closest to you think of? They find out that you brutally murdered two little girls, two children. Only a coward would do such a thing. We are confident that you have told someone what you have done, or at the very least, they know because of how different you are since the murders.
I've never seen a press conference like this where he talks directly to who he thinks is he's talking to the killer. Like, it's bizarre.
We try so hard to understand how a person could do something like this to two children. I recently watched a movie called The Shack. And there's also a book that talks so well about evil, about death, and about eternity. To the murderer, I believe you have just a little bit of a conscience left. And I can assure you
between 18
that how
and
you
40?
left them in that woods is not, it's not what they're experiencing today.
So bizarre.
To the family, I hope that you all will give them some time, because we're going to be asking that there's no media inquiry or no media response for at least the next 2 weeks, and I hope you understand why. The family found out about this information this morning.
Why did it take over 2 years to get
I
into
just
her
want
phone?
the family to know that when I take my last breath on this earth, I'll be thinking of them. There's going to be a tremendous amount of questions. I know that. I know that. Never in my career have I stood in front of something like this. Please be patient with us, please. We're just beginning. We are just now beginning. And I can tell you on behalf of the sheriff and the police chief, so many other partners that have stood with us over this period of time, that we will not stop.
Bizarre.
I just unveiled the person that we believe responsible for the murder of these two little girls. So I invite media to take a look at that now.
It's like a completely
Kim.
different person from the first sketch. And he looks, it's like 20 years, at least 20 years younger, in my opinion. Looks
We're
like
also
a
going
kid.
to show you a video not previously released that superintendent spoke to, and also the audio that's additional to what's been previously released. It's only a slight change in it. So give Sergeant Riley just a second as he gets that up and ready.
And he said this is going to supersede the first sketch. Forget about the first sketch. This is the new sketch. Between 18 and 40 years old, that kid looks to me to be about 18 or 20. The sketch, anyway. It's his guys down the hill.
Stand by for the video, please. There is no sound of the video.
Can they estimate the height of the person from this video?
I know that's the other thing. Richard Allen is 5'4".
As Superintendent Carter mentioned, he is on the railway bridge. You have to take different steps to get to it. This information later this afternoon will be on the State Police website. For the community that's here, we have 100 copies of the news release. If you put in that URL, you'll be able to get to that site to play it. And we also have that same release for you in the media. And the rest of the state will get that release in about 15 minutes. So we appreciate those of you that came here. This concludes our announcement. Thank you for your time, patience, and courage.
So now the state is very clearly saying they're the same person. They're the same person. Both of the people in those sketches are the same person. So in the state's opening, they talked about how, and I'm just going to give you like the broad strokes of the important stuff about how the sister dropped them off at the where they were dropped off at the Mears entrance. So there is a camera on, let me see which map I've got. I might have it up. Maybe I don't have it up yet. Let's see, let's stick it up. So Dizzy took the maps that Joe Schmo made. She put them in a PDF for me so I can more easily share them with you guys. So many people helping. Thank you to everybody. I was supposed to, and I will send to Dizzy. She asked me, give me all the names of the people that you want to thank and that helped so that I can put it in the show notes. And then I was like, I gotta get ready. And I kind of forgot. So I absolutely will though.
Samantha in my chat says, y'all, Richard Allen worked at the CVS in my town. I never recognized him and I went to that CVS all the time.
And does she mean never recognized him as the person
In
the sketch or as bridge guy, or she didn't take note of him when she was in when she was there?
Well, let us know, Samantha. She says, Melanie, I agree. And also for all the investigation material lost in this case.
Yeah, that's something that they did. Oh, I see why I couldn't share it. That they did focus on in the defense's version of the opening. So I'll
Can we just back up for 1 second? So he went into the police station like voluntarily, right? Shortly after the bodies were found.
The police that very day. So he got home, and when this was on the news about the girls were missing, he called in and said that he was there. So, and apparently that was like overlooked and sort of lost. And then in 2022, September of 2022, they kind of relocated this and went and talked to him again. So he said that he was on the bridge at that time. So this is at my understanding, at least, this is information he provided long after, but he had originally called and told him he was there. But then when they went back and spoke to him again in September of 2022, he said that, and I've got the affidavit up in front of me now, it says Mr. Allen was on the trail between 13:30, 1:30, and 5:30. And I'll tell you, since that was released, I said to Bob, well, that sounds like someone saying like, I was there sometime between this time and this time, not like I was there from 1:30 to 3:30. He parked at the old Farm Bureau building, which it's the CPS building. That is what he says he parked at. And he walked to the new Freedom Bridge. The new Freedom Bridge is not the bridge that we've been talking about. And I'll pull up another, I'll show it to you on the map. Is it up right here? No, I have this up. Because I shared the screen. Okay, so I'll show it to you. But he noted, oh, you guys can see this. I'll blow it up. Okay. I didn't mean to share the screen, but now that I did, perfect. He noted that, while on Freedom Bridge, he saw 3 females. Now there are, I think, 2 other witnesses that saw a group of 3 females. So it's not unusual that he would have seen 3. He noted one was taller and had brown or black hair. He did not remember the description, nor did he speak with them. He walked from Freedom Bridge to the High Bridge. That's the bridge the girls were on, the High Bridge. He did not see anybody, meaning to me, I take that on the High Bridge, although he stated he was watching a stock ticker on his phone as he walked. So he's saying he wasn't really paying attention as he was walking.
Mm.
He stated that there was a vehicle parked at the High Bridge trailhead, and we'll show you where that is as well. However, he did not pay attention to them. He did not take any photos or video. His cell phone is not listed in IMEI, but did have the following, and that's he gave them like his cell phone info and all of that. So now this is okay. So this is the wide picture here. So let's see if it's got the free. So here's the CPS building where he parked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then he would have had to walk down here and try to see where the Freedom High Bridge starts, because maybe it's not marked on this thing.
But they didn't start looking into this tip until 5 years later.
Correct. So now this is the Hoosier Harvest store, and there is a camera out here. Okay, so they see Kelsey's car. That's the sister that dropped the girls off.
Mm-hmm.
At 147 is shown on the camera there. Okay, so she drives up to here, and probably parks somewhere around here and lets the girls out. And they call this the Mears entrance to the trails to go to the bridge. This is the Mears farm right across. So that makes sense. Now, if you go down this way, that's the cemetery where I parked. This is the Logan farm. And up here, like down this road and up here is where the family lives. So she being the sister would have come down this way to drop the girls off and actually drove this way. But then when she left, she would have passed the camera. So that's
Mhm.
why it's they see her at 147. They dropped them off at 145. So then they would have walked in here. That's where I walked in. This spot right here is where the memorial is. And there's the next picture is zoomed in more anyway. Then they would have to walk down here, and then you would hit the bridge. So you've got Libby taking a shot of Abby at 2:07 p.m. So that's 27 minutes from when, or 22 minutes from when she gets dropped off. She's taking the Snapchat picture. And then the down the hill video is taken at 2:13. So you've got that 6 minutes there to walk all down to the other end of the bridge to right where the road, the private road is that leads to this Brad Weber's house. So then the next picture is a zoomed in picture of everything. It's showing you where they got dropped off. and then the bridge, and you can kind of see that private road at the end. There's the cemetery. Here's where their bodies were found. And the next one. So you've got the clothes found here closer to the water. Now you've got one of the guys, and we'll get into their testimony. So I'll bring it back then. But they were on foot, sort of. They had walked 4 hours, and they spotted this over here, and they said that the water they saw the tie-dye clothes there. They were gonna cross, but the water was really deep. So a fireman went down there. He crossed, and then another gentleman who testified, so I'll tell you more about it, who parked up here at the cemetery and was walking down. That's who stumbled across the girls' bodies as he did that. And so now it's this view. You can see that's Brad Weber's house. That's the private road. It goes all the way down. I mean, all of this property here is I think Logan's and Weber's, or this might all be Weber down here. And then this last picture is even zoomed in even more. You've got, this is where the 207, where the Snapchat was. This is where it was down the hill. You can really see that private road that goes to Brad Weber's house.
The clothes were found, but there was some initial reporting that one of the girls was found wearing the other girl's clothes.
Yes. So Abby is, if Abby's the darker hair, she's smaller than Libby. So Abby was wearing all of Libby's clothes, and Libby was naked. Underneath Libby, they found a shoe, and they found Libby's cell phone. The state's opening, they say their theory is the girls never left. They were taken at that 2:13 mark when he says down the hill, and they were deceased by 4 p.m. And that Richard Allen left between around 3:30. He never went back to the scene. He never touched the phone again. That's the state's theory. But there was a lot of blood. Libby was covered in blood and naked. It was a knife that was used on the girls. And what we know about the crime scene is it was very unusual. Okay, the defense calls it ritualistic and says that the state's evidence showed that there were sticks that were left on the girls. There were, one side of the investigation felt that these sticks looked like symbols they use in Odinism.
Runes or something, right?
Runes, yes.
Yeah.
And that there was a marking on the tree in blood that, the state says is just somebody's hand touching the tree. And the defense says it also creates a shape like a rune that's prominent in Odinism. But they're not allowed to mention any of that at trial. The judge has barred as of now, preliminarily, based on a motion in limine, barred them from mentioning anything about rituals, anything about Odinists. And there were several third-party suspects that they weren't allowed to mention, including people who confessed. There was one guy who said to the police, if you find my spit or my DNA and I can explain it, will that be okay on the girl?
I heard about that, yeah.
He is, it sounds like, and we'll never know unless the judge changes her ruling, that individual has some learning disabilities, but so be it. There's also a girl who also has the last name of Allen, but it's unrelated, who told her mother that she was there and took part in the killings,
Mm-hmm.
and another guy who confessed to being involved in the crime, that the police just kind of ruled out as like a crazy nonsense talk. The state went over the main evidence that they have against Richard Allen is the fact that he says he was on the bridge at the time the girls were taken, wearing similar clothes to Bridge Guy, and that there was a bullet. Now it's an unspent bullet. It just went through the gun. I'm not a gun person. All I know is that it's unspent, so it's not like they have ballistics from a fired bullet, which would have more markings on it. It's just an unspent bullet that the state says is a match, hands down match to a gun found at Richard Allen's.
But it was buried in the dirt. Wasn't it buried or something?
It hasn't come out at trial, but I do think that people have said that it was sort of pressed into the dirt. Maybe it was stepped on. Maybe who knows what? Like we don't know yet, because I don't think it's been fully something that's been established one way or another for sure, because of the gag and the limited stuff that's come out.
But they weren't shot.
No, they were not shot.
Their throats were cut. That came out in opening, right? And I don't think that had ever been revealed before, was it?
I think that, I don't know, maybe I thought that it had been, but maybe not. No, I think that it had been, but maybe not as directly as it was in openings. But the other thing the state was relying on is that Richard Allen made all these confessions. So all these confessions came well after he had been, I think, 4+ months or so in solitary. He we haven't heard them. I've always said, until I hear it, I don't know what to think about it, but the defense is saying he part of his confessions was that he shot them, that he buried them in a shallow grave, things that were wholly inconsistent with what happened. On the flip side, the state, again in its opening, has said that these confessions contain facts that only the killer would know.
And they were on jailhouse calls, right? To his wife?
So there were jailhouse calls to his wife. There was some sort of letter that we've heard some of the stuff that was in there. So this is not something I heard as far as the pretrial motions or when they were trying to suppress some of the statements. But even at the motions, they didn't put in the details of what his confessions were. And they didn't identify how many they were. It was kind of like the defense didn't, typically you say this statement given on this time at this date, and it's typically introduced at the hearing seeking to suppress it. It didn't get that detailed. They were just like all the statements made between this period of time, without giving any details. It was one of the issues that the judge took issue with. But so we don't know yet, but the state does claim that there are also statements that only the real perpetrator would know.
But all jailhouse calls are recorded, as everyone knows. So if these statements were made to his wife on calls, they have recordings of them. And are the recordings coming in, or has she ruled that they're not coming in? Or has she not ruled yet?
Those are coming. She has not excluded any of the statements. They're all admissible.
But she has excluded. Sorry.
No, you go.
So the statements can come in, but she has excluded any mention of a potential third-party culprit. And this is what brings us back to Karen Reed. So, or a similarity. So the motion about Odinism, and this is where I started getting really interested in this case, that I was like, okay, I read the whole motion. It was really long. It was really detailed. Court TV then put up these graphics of what they thought the crime scene looked like that were not even accurate. It was like a sketch that somebody from Court TV did.
Right.
And it looked to me like it was potentially some ritualistic type of killing, right? And then I found out that initially some of the detectives who were investigating this case also had that same theory, right away, right?
Yes.
And
highly
then
investigated.
Yeah. And then for some reason it was discarded. But the thing that was also interesting to me is that some of the people that were connected to the girls are also perhaps Odinists. And they had posted stuff on social media about it. And then part of the argument in that motion was also that the prison guards that were assigned to Richard Allen while he's in the prison for 2 years in solitary, and clearly I thought he was on a hunger strike. I mean, lost 40 pounds. He looked psychotic. They had these patches on their uniforms that they claimed were Odinist patches. And then in response to that motion, if I recall right, and chat, you feel free to
So
correct
far,
me as you
you're
always
right.
do. In the response to that motion, there were affidavits from those corrections officers who said, oh yeah, we've got those patches on our uniforms, but like they're not really Odinist. They're like some other offshoot of Odinism or something like that. And then
I
they
think
were
that
told,
would be the Asa truth that you and I were talking about just before this. I don't remember, but maybe I'm wrong. And like she just said, chat, keep us on our toes, that the
Mhm.
affidavits were actually from any of the guards, but they did have affidavits that pictures that the lawyers or the people with the defense team had taken of the patches, that these are people that were actually there that they saw.
right?
One of the patches got removed, and oh, somebody just put it there. I was literally just saying it. They told them they had to remove the patches. The jail said
Yeah.
no more patches.
Right.
And one of the guards said, well, you can't take my tattoo. He tattooed it right on his face.
So like, what are the odds? And I'm just spitballing here, brainstorming with you. What are the odds that these guys, his guards that are assigned to him personally, are, maybe mentally torturing him for 24 hours a day for however many years that he's in there, obviously not eating. And as anybody knows, just common sense wise, you're in solitary confinement for that long. It's going to make you insane, for lack of a better. Who knows what he was threatened? Like, you better confess or we're going to do this to your wife. Like, we don't know what was going on in there.
And that's definitely one of the number one reasons why I'm like, I have to hear it. But then I also don't know if everything's going this far, is he being fed information? So
About the real crime scene. So when his confessions would ring true a bit when he was on the
right.
phone with his wife. Yeah.
And there's on the phone with the wife, there's talking to the guards, there's talking to other inmates. So some of the stuff, so we'll have to see, is this consistent, that only the killer would know, coming from something that someone just says that he told them, or is it coming from a recording? That's going to be another thing that makes a huge difference with me. Or is it coming from a guard? Obviously, none of those people would also know any details that only the perpetrator would know, unless it was fed to them. But you can't put anything past anyone these days.
Well, no. I mean, we've pretty much seen the worst of the worst lately, it seems like. But
And he did have to get treated with antipsychotics. I mean, it got really bad. I don't know the time frame, and that'll all be coming out of like when he started getting treated with antipsychotics versus when statements started getting made. And there's been, different reports by different people on different aspects of that.
has it ever been shown that he had a gun with him? That he carried a gun on the regular? That he is Indiana an open carry state?
I think Indiana, you don't need. Well, I'm not actually. I'm not sure. I wanted to say that you don't need a conceal and carry, but there
I'm
was
not.
also an argument that the wood is actually been cut, like that they had to have some sort of device with them to make some of the cuttings in the wood. I'm assuming the state strongly disagrees with that theory, but that's been out there as well.
The wood, the
Like
wood that was
that made the runes.
okay. Were they like branches, like tree branches or sticks, or?
They say sticks, but we don't really know. I know that the leaked pictures involved some of that. I never saw them, so I don't know what other people have seen from that. But yeah, people are saying like the wood was sawed. I see in the chat. I mean, that's what I've heard as well. It wasn't something focused on in the openings by either party. You know, they searched until 2 a.m. on the 13th, and then they stopped.
Had they searched that area where the bodies were found?
Well, so that was something that is in dispute. That was like so the witnesses that we've heard from so far that were
Mhm.
out searching. There was a Jack Jones and Pat Brown. He's the one that found the bodies. And so they're like, you saw lights in this area, you saw lights in that area. So Jones says, well, I didn't see any on that side of the water, but then Pat Brown said that he had seen some down there. So it's hard to say, like the state's trying to put in that people didn't get quite that far. But the defense is trying to present that they have. And we've only heard from those two. There are definitely going to be more searchers that we hear from.
So when did the trial start? When were openings?
So openings were on Friday.
Today, I don't know what date is. Today's Sunday, right?
Right. So
And then
Friday,
they had court on Saturday.
yes. And I went to court on Saturday. Bob went to court on Friday. And I stayed home and we did Sarah Boone. So then Bob had to leave and I had just his notes from opening. So openings were on Friday. We heard from Liberty Germain's grandmother, her sister, and her father. And we heard from Abby's mother. And Bob was gone. He missed most of Abby's mother, so I don't know much about that. And we heard from one person from the sheriff's department. That person from the sheriff's department drove down that little road that I was showing you on the map.
Mhm.
And I had spoke to another court goer yesterday who, was saying that the road abuts the water and he was right there and he said he didn't see anything, but then he also said he wasn't really looking. I'm like, well, he's driving to the Webbers to talk to him about two missing girls. Did he see anybody? You're telling me he's not looking? But when I looked at the map again today, it sort of, I can't tell. Obviously, if there's no trees, it could be different, but I don't know if he would have been able to see it or not. But he didn't hear anything. But if his windows were up, who knows if he would hear anything. But then when I looked at the picture that we showed you today, where Ron Logan was taking a photograph and the caution tape that was much closer to the water than I thought. So maybe he could have. The road sort of abuts on the other side of the creek. Let's pull it up one more time.
But in order for them to, okay, he says down the hill, they go down the hill. In order for them to get to the place where they found the bodies, they had to cross over this creek, right?
Yes.
So they had to wade through this creek, right? And
Yeah.
you just said that a fireman tried to go through and it was very, very deep, right? So Alan's only 5'4", right?
Right.
How is he getting these two girls across this very deep creek? Like, did they ever do any tidal, I don't know,
So
find out what the tide was? How
that we're
deep?
going to hear. I did
Yeah.
have Dizzy did send me, so I'm about to pull it up. The water level from there and how much it was apparently very high and moving very quickly that day. Let me pull it up for you guys. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dizzy. Where did I put it?
Oh yeah, that's a great point.
What they
Someone
said?
made a very interesting thought about I think it's Bob, wildlife in the trail area, and it would be likely that if the girls were there overnight, they would have sustained injuries from those animals. In
So that's
February,
something the defense tried to ask one of the witnesses about the wildlife, and the state argued it was outside of the scope of direct, and the judge sustained it. So it did not get in. So here is the
well, they can call them back on their case in chief.
The Deer Creek water levels for 2017. Here you go. So February 17th, it was high.
February 13th it is, right?
I mean, February 13th, right. Let's see, daily mean discharge cubic feet per second on the 13th was 573. So what
You're speaking Greek to me.
I know, but Dizzy, what Dizzy told me, all
Is that
meant-
current? Is that depth?
Right, it was
I'm
current. I
confused.
think. Let me see what Dizzy told me. And Dizzy, are you chatting for Defense Diaries? You can put it there, but I'm going to look to what you told me here. Bum, bum, bum.
Were the girls'
February, it was
clothes
the
wet?
creek was 3.5 times the normal amount of water. So the depth would have been about 3.5 feet deep. It's usually 2. And it was 17 tons of water per second flowing through the creek on 213.7. So
I mean, 3.5 feet deep. That's, like
but
the
I
shallow end of the
know
pool.
so to be fair, there's different parts of the creek do have different, it changes. And I have heard people talking about like there's a sandbar that comes up in the middle.
Okay.
And because I had like I'm in an Airbnb of one of our viewers and they're local, and Rachel was asking, could you see the sandbar on that day? Like I don't know the answer. Like, and I don't know if it's come out whether you could or not. I mean, I can't imagine a set of circumstances where this isn't going to be something the defense touches on in trial. So,
Right.
and that wasn't the first time that I'd heard about the sandbar. And the water flows from right to left. So when I first was thinking about that, my mind, because again, I was thinking they were sort of coming down. I'm going to put back up the maps. What did I do with them? Let me see what screen that was. This screen. Okay.
Sandbars were underwater on February 14th. Yeah. And how's a guy who's 5'4"?
Joe Schmo, he's the one that made all those maps. So
How tall were the girls? Do we know?
I don't know.
I mean, that would be in the autopsy
some-
report. It would be probably right. How could one man this is what I'm having trouble with logically. One man who's 5'4" get 2 girls across a creek like that, without one of them running away or trying to, I mean, unless he did have a gun and then he had a gun pointed at them, right? But the ballistics, the science on the ballistics for an unspent round, as far as I know, is not a very exact science.
No, and that's what I was hoping. So I'm thinking when I'm looking at this and I'm thinking they're going down the hill in my mind, because when I'm standing on it, the creek's over here. I always thought they were somewhere down here. There was more water, but when you go, it's actually ends up, it's up there. So yeah, they would have had to cross somewhere around here. Now, look, I had someone comment like, "Hey, Allison, just because they found the clothes there doesn't mean that's where they crossed the creek." I was like, "All right, okay, fair enough." The water was flowing downhill, downstream was right to left. So, I mean, look, with the clothes being right here and the body being right there, it's they crossed somewhere right around here.
Mhm.
But that's where they would have to cross.
Well, the
And
girls were the same height, Erin says.
right, and don't forget the cemeteries here. So you've got the bodies there, and then the clothes are right up here.
But they weren't
So
sexually assaulted, right?
they were not. Now
Right.
in the state's opening, and they said so in their what was new information to me, that they said in there, they did like a mini opening. Have you ever heard of this? And did you know this happened? Have you heard already about this mini opening? There was a mini opening at Wadir.
Yeah, no, I've
Each
never
time
heard of that.
mini opening. It's like, what? We're always like, don't give too many facts. This is
Mhm.
not for you to, inform the jury about the facts of the case. They did a mini opening, and also in his real opening, they claimed that Richard Allen was interrupted, and that Richard Allen confessed that he was or they said he was gonna have his way with them, but he was interrupted.
Okay, so they're
So
bringing up his confessions during jury selection?
in jury selection, I think they might have just said, they might have, I wasn't there, but they definitely said that he was interrupted. And in the openings, they said he was going
Hmm.
to, um, he was going to have his way with them, but he was interrupted. So I don't know what the state plans on presenting, or maybe they just said it. Maybe they just said it. Let me take it back. Details. Yeah, it says was saying, or no, maybe it says was going. Okay. I'm reading Bob's notes and I thought it said that he was saying he was going to, but it just says was going to have his way with them, but he was interrupted. So I'm not sure if they're saying that that's what he said or if that was just their theory.
Right. This is what I'm saying, Murky Piglet. You can't get ballistic science on an unspent round. That's for fired rounds, right? So somebody was pointing out it's the same kind of bullet that the law enforcement use
Yep.
in the town, that there's a tool mark. But again, it's far different from a spent round, which you can definitely, with certainty, trace back to a particular weapon. This is just, I don't know.
And the state's been taking issue with the defense calling it junk science, and their expert, they're junk science expert. They're expert who would explain to the jury why this science is in doubt, why ballistics is there is a healthy debate and courtrooms who aren't allowing it. And again, a healthy debate as to whether it should even be allowed in courtrooms anymore. But the judge has not ruled yet on whether she's going to allow that expert to testify.
Is it Trooper Paul from Norfolk County? Did they bring Trooper Paul in for this one too?
Right. And they're saying it's a match, not even that it was, consistent with. Not
Right.
even she's allowing them. That was also part of the pretrial arguments. Not she's allowing the state to say it was a match. A match to what, my friend? Like to what?
Right.
But yeah, in the opening for the defense, they did focus on that. They said right away that he was innocent. The evidence is going to prove him innocent. That
Mhm.
this case has been messed up by the investigators from the beginning. That they lost evidence. He said, poof, interviews disappeared of key witnesses. They didn't write down the names. And then he focused on the fact that they kicked out the FBI before they got their forensic examination report.
Mm.
So, or before they could explain it or get the details, the defense said this was a bombshell to me, the biggest bombshell, that they have just based on new forensics, because they kicked the FBI out.
Mhm.
They got new forensics and they said that Libby's phone data does not lie. That's not going to lie. It can't lie. And it's going to prove hands down that the state's timeline does not match and human hands touched that phone at 4:00 in the morning. 4:00 in the morning. There's no question, no doubt, no ifs, ands, or buts that pursuant to the state's own, theory and evidence, that Richard Allen could not have been touching that phone at 4 a.m.
And there was a hair found in one of the girl's hands that did not match Richard Allen.
Right. That was another bombshell, but we're waiting actually for the DNA evidence to come back as to whether it's someone in the household. That was another issue that the defense, that was the next thing that the defense said in their opening, that 2 days ago, law enforcement was scrambling to test the hair that was wrapped around Abby's fingers.
So, so
Go
wait a
ahead.
second.
DNA
If
was
my math is
extracted,
right.
but never tested. They didn't.
This is over 7 years ago that this crime happened. That hair was never tested.
It's a
They
female hair.
never thought it would be important.
To even exclude the family, not
Mhm.
even to exclude the family.
Mhm.
Like, but the other thing was, and I don't know that it'll matter so much if they get these DNA results back, but it's, I think, very important that when the sister testified about the sweatshirt, so she had these sweatshirts in her car. Both girls took the sweatshirt. They were wearing these swimming sweatshirts. She said it was brand new, had never been worn. Never been worn.
Mhm.
So where are you getting a hair from? She did say she washed it in the family's washer, then put it back in the car, but it's never been worn. So, because at first I thought, well, maybe it could be a family member's. Maybe if they took it of Libby, off of Libby, and they're putting it on Abby, that when her hand goes through, a hair gets wrapped around. Like, okay, maybe that's possible. Let's wait. Let's see what the DNA brings back. But then she testified it's never been worn. So how they could let a hair sit like that is beyond me.
Do they have an extraction from Richard Allen's cell phone?
Not that I've heard of. So because what I did hear is facts don't lie, cell phone data doesn't lie, Libby's phone, nothing about Richard Allen's. And Bob and I, between ourselves, have been screaming, what in the hell? Where's Richard Allen's cell phone data? I don't know if they didn't have, because you and I talked about that. Is it
Right.
possible it was so old he didn't have a backup? It wasn't stored. They don't have it. Maybe,
Right. It might be past their retention policy if they didn't even arrest him until over 5 years later, almost 6 years later, right?
right.
So would they not be able to get it? But that would show his GPS coordinates. That would show where he was. That would show the
was on his
steps that he
speaker.
took. It would show everything. It would
Right.
be exculpatory. So
Right.
potentially. Or his car GPS data. Did they ever do an extraction of his car?
He had a
The telematics system or the
2016, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, Ford Focus. So I don't know. I've never heard anything. It doesn't sound like they ever got any data from that. I don't know if they could have. 2014, Sleuthy says. Okay. 2014 case says. All right. So a 2014 Ford Focus. And that was another issue. Let's see if they mentioned that.
all of his, it says, pay attention. All his data has been excluded. So they have it and it's just been excluded. I don't know
Who
who
said
said
that?
Somebody
Which
said that in the
person said
chat.
that?
Philip Stroll.
Someone I know, tell me if they've heard that, because that's not anything that I've ever heard. Bob and I have been sort of waiting, like what's going on with his cell phone data? What's going on with his cell phone data? I see Philip Stroll saying yes, but
Didn't they say, or didn't someone say, the defense say that Richard, the evidence is going to prove that he was not there at the time that this happened? They have
yes,
some
so
sort of evidence that he was there only from, I don't know, you tell me the time, 12:30 to 1:30?
they
And
said
then
12 to 1:30. So yeah, that's what I'm so going through what the state said was, what they said is going to prove everything is Abby's phone. But they
Mhm.
did say that he was never on the trail at the same time of him. I don't know that that's just, who knows, maybe that is cell phone data and they're just not saying it yet. They're kind of holding it back. But they didn't say anything about his cell phone data in the opening, but they did say he was not on the same trails with them. He was gone by 1:30. They
Mhm.
said that they did say that hair might be from a relative, but it's not Libby's hair, it's not Abby's hair, and it's not Richard Allen's hair, and that the hold the state to the theory is what they kept saying. You guys have to hold the state to their theory because the cell phone data is going to prove their theory is impossible. Libby's cell phone data, at least what they said in the opening. Because the state said that by 3:45, 4 o'clock, he was gone. Richard Allen was gone and never came back. The defense pointed out that Betsy Blair is one of the witnesses. She's a 50-year-old woman. She's the one that did the younger sketch. Now they
Mhm.
had that sketch. That younger sketch was the first sketch they got. 4 days. Let me make sure that I'm not wrong, because because I feel like it was 4 months before the other one, but okay. So the first sketch that they released, the first sketch that they released was actually wasn't done until June of 2017. The younger one was from Betsy Blair, who she said it was a 10 out of 10 accuracy. That's what she said. And that sketch, I think, was 4 days. It's not in what Sleuthy sent me, but I would have to pull up my
Wasn't that the
notes.
sketch that was released at the press conference that we saw? That was sometime in 2019.
Yeah, but it was actually taken only days after seeing the person on the bridge. Like, but they didn't
But they
release
didn't
it.
release it until 2019?
I'm assuming because it looks nothing like the person in the video. The grainy person in the video.
And the
Poor
video
kid.
was taken at 2:13 p.m. So if the defense can prove that he was gone before 2:13 p.m., there goes their whole theory.
Right. I think in my opinion, based on what they're saying, what more they're going to be focused on is that they can prove somebody was using Abby's phone at 4 a.m. Like that,
Right.
you know,
And somebody pointed out in the chat that it needed her fingerprint to open the phone, or one of their fingerprints to open the phone.
right. It did.
So either she was still
I mean,
alive
you
or
probably
somebody
could-
went and used her fingerprint to open the phone. But here's the other thing too. They're saying the time of death was what? Shortly after 2:15 p.m. So
The state says by 4 p.m. they were deceased.
and in February, that's still daylight, I'm assuming. There's no leaves on the trees. It looks to be a pretty wide open area. Is this an area where people would traverse if they were hiking around there?
Well, not there, but the only way to get back to the CPS building, he's got to come either back down that bridge or over up around that private trail and all the way down that 300 road, the road that passes the Logan House, passes the cemetery, passes the entrance, passes the camera on the Hoosier Harvester store. Because Sleuthy and I were talking about that today, because I didn't understand where I went to the Hoosier Harvest store. And it is nowhere near there. It's on road 500. So I was so confused. I'm like, what is going on? Why is everyone's map saying this? Because I said, if it's really where it was on all these maps, right on road 300, wouldn't everybody go past there? Everyone coming would go past that very same camera. So we got to talking. She was like, yeah. And the person walking back to the CPS, I'm like, right. So how the hell is that person not on there? But when you come from the other way, from up where the German family would have been coming, where they live, they don't need to pass that camera if they turn around and go back out. But everyone else is coming past that camera. So how does the killer get all the way back? Now, Sarah Carball is the one that they're using to say she said she saw this guy muddied and bloodied and was wearing a blue jacket and jeans. But in her original statement, she said a tan jacket and jeans and didn't mention that anybody was bloody. Then after the video is released, that's when she says that it was a blue jacket and he was bloodied and muddied. Also, what came out pre-trial, that first video, the one with the hair, first sketch, the one that looks more like Richard Allen, they showed her the bridge guy sketch. The bridge guy video.
Right.
So she was literally looking at a picture of bridge guy, and yeah, it's blurry, but you get a sense of who it is. You get obviously a sense of the clothing. So it's very, very, it was very surprising actually when I kind of felt that the FBI agent, when he was testifying, that took the sketch, I'm like, this guy seems believable. He seems trustworthy. Then the defense played a clip from the interview where he admitted he was going to show her this video, and he had just said showing a picture is like the worst thing you could ever do. And then his excuse was, well, that video didn't matter because you couldn't really see the features, but it was the clothes, it was everything. It gives you a general sense. It definitely, he had just said how you don't want anything to contaminate their thoughts. You don't want anything to, come in and influence them. And then he's showing her, here, let's sketch this guy. What does this guy right here look like?
Exactly. Can you describe him for me so we can sketch it? What? She hasn't testified yet.
No, she is not.
It's going to be interesting because she did say when her initial statement said he had a tan jacket and he was muddy. Right. Then Is she
So
really
the-
going to say that he had a blue jacket and he was bloody and muddy? Because maybe that's just what they wrote down, and that's, not what she said, because we
and
saw that in the
where-
Karen Reed trial a lot. Those statements weren't very accurate. When the witness, Jennifer McCabe, got on the stand, she's like, oh, that's not what I told him. You'd have to
So
ask him.
where
He wrote that
she
down, but that's
said
not what
that
it said.
where she said that she saw him, I'm gonna pull this back up and show you where she claims to have seen the bloodied and muddied person is up on that road 300. She's heading this way towards
Mhm.
Ron Logan's house, towards this road over here, and the person was walking this way. CPS building way back here. You've got to walk past this camera. So, and if he's here, there's nowhere to hide here. This is literally what it looks like. This was corn. And it wasn't grown at the time because it's February, so everything was, but it's empty. This side, same deal. It's not corn. They have a different, they've got different stuff over there, but nothing is there. Then you've got the mayor's farm here, and this, it's not very thick like the wooded areas here and here. And if there was no trees, you could definitely clearly see like there. So, and it's very loud. If someone is walking or rustling through those areas, when I was there, I heard it was a little chipmunk, and it sounded like, I honestly started thinking there's a person out there like eavesdropping on what Bob and I are talking about. Like I stood there looking in, trying to find what was making the noise. But anytime something crunched or walked, it's amplified. Like you
So
can
yeah,
hear
I
it.
heard you saying, because I was listening to you yesterday talking about this, that there's like a really weird echo there. Like,
Yeah.
so everything is like amplified because of the
Right. So if
topography
you're
or
walking
whatever.
on the trail and someone's trying to, okay, he's going to hide in the woods as he's going. Like, yeah, maybe he was on the open road here, but then he hopped in the trees and hid. There's no hiding in those trees. You can see the road, easily, especially now there's the trees the leaves are starting to fall, but they're not already, they have not all fallen. In February, there would have been no leaves on the trees.
So they pulled the surveillance camera footage right away, and there's no guy in a tan jacket walking by, and there's no guy in a blue jacket walking by, and
Not
that would
that
be
they
the way
have
that he would have to go back to his car.
Not that they have ever, not that they've ever said. So, and I don't know why
I
they
mean, it's going to be
wouldn't.
so interesting because we've heard about these witnesses for so many years, right? And then, you get a picture in your head of what they look like and what they're going to sound like. And then sometimes they get on the stand and it's completely like not what you thought. So that's why it's so great that you guys are going to be there in the
Yeah.
courtroom to report back. And this is like, look, it's not that unusual that there's not cameras in the courtroom. In New York, we don't allow cameras in the courtroom here. I mean, when Long
Right.
Island serial killer is tried, that there's going to be no cameras. We just don't do that here.
They
So
release the audio?
no,
Oh, no audio either.
no.
Well, but Indiana has an open records statute. And
Yeah.
it says exhibits are public record, the audio is public record, and it's supposed to be available to the public.
So tell us what happened when you went to court yesterday, because there's a lot of buzz about that. And I've seen pictures of like Lauren from Hidden True Crime. She's like camping out with a sleeping bag. And I was like, I was confused. I'm like, she's sleeping out Friday night from Monday, like we used to do for concert tickets back in the day. When you
I
had to
know.
show up at Roosevelt Field or wherever you waited for your Ticketmaster, Ticketron, I think it was at the time.
I
And
know.
in Boulder, we'd camp out for the whole weekend for Grateful Dead tickets because that's what you had to do. You had to actually wait in line. There was no internet, young folks. There was no internet. And I'm like, is Lauren going to sleep out for the whole weekend? But I guess she was just sleeping out until Saturday, because who has court on Saturday? Like, that was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. And Melanie and I joked offline because I was telling other people that were waiting in line, I'm like, hey, you guys, take it from a concert goer. Never tell anyone what time you are lining up.
Mhm.
Like, that's rule number one, because everyone tells what time they're lining up, so then everyone starts lining up earlier and earlier. From what I'm hearing, people are starting at like 1 a.m. or midnight and staying there all night long.
But
It's
you guys, you didn't have to do that.
No, luckily, right.
Because you had the fast pass. Like at
Yeah.
Disney, you had the fast pass. Do they only have certain number of seats for media per day? Is that why people are
think
going there, putting out like a Karen Reed, going there, putting out their chairs, putting their name on it, hiring a line sitter, taking a picture of the chair?
Yeah, so they have a lottery for the media, and they've
Huh.
got, I think it's 10, maybe it's 12, I could be wrong.
It's not very many.
So only a certain number of them get in. And then at the end of the day, court's over, it is not in session. The judge allows the media to look at the exhibits that were offered that day.
Mhm.
So I got in line to look at the exhibits, and one of the media says, "Are you credentialed media?" And I'm like, "No, but I'm a member of the public." And they have a, their public record statute. And she's like, "Well, the judge said in the decorum order that, only media."
Wait a
So
minute. This was another like media person? Like, is it a person that you recognize? I'm sure you don't want to
no,
like
I
tell
didn't.
us who it
No,
is, but
I would
local
probably.
reporter.
I don't know who she was. It was a woman, and I don't know who she was. I
And
had
she didn't know who you were? Like,
And so, I mean, other press were talking to me, and
Mhm.
I know that Andrea Burkhart, she did it the day before, because her and I went to lunch and we were talking about it. Like, it's supposed to be the public, so we're
Right.
gonna like let them tell us we can't do it. So, and I know she did get to actually see everything on Friday, Friday, and I wasn't there Friday. So Saturday I tried, and then I said, "Let the judge tell me." And she sort of backed up and said loud enough for the judge to hear, "Well, the judge has already said it has to be credentialed media." So then she challenged me, like, "Are you media?" And I said, "No, Your Honor, I'm a member of the public." And she said, "Leave the well of the courtroom," because that's where it was being done, in the well of the courtroom. And I said, "Okay, Your Honor, I'll leave, but under your public records." And then she yelled at me louder, "Leave the well of the courtroom." And then one more time I tried. I said, "Okay, Your Honor, when is the opportunity? What time and day can the public come?" And she yelled at me even louder. So that time I left.
You should make t-shirts. I was yelled at by Judge Gull, or I survived Judge Gull, something like that. Because this is like, what a great story. First of all, who's this? I hate to use the word Karen because, but like, who's this woman who's like, oh, you're not good enough to see I want to get the scoop on
What am I
this. Like,
taking her market share? Like,
right.
what did she care?
Are you taking away her clicks and likes? I mean, I can't even imagine what her motivation would be.
But they're
It's just
also not
beyond.
allowing, I mean, you've got to be a part of a larger media outlet. Like, she's being very strict on what she's even
Mm.
considering media. And there were some YouTubers whose passes were revoked.
Oh, really? So
Yeah,
independent media doesn't count, right?
right.
I mean, how do you have to work for like a what kind of publication is, or we have to have a website? I mean,
An affiliate, some sort of affiliate. And I
so
don't know.
there's some other YouTubers there, law tubers, right? Who I guess law tubers and YouTubers who were there who had media credentials and got them taken away.
I don't think they were law tubers. I think they were YouTubers. Not that it would matter either way,
No, I
but
mean, media is,
right,
I mean, right? You don't have to be a lawyer to be in the
right,
media.
right.
But DUI guy made a fake media pass when he went to the Karen Reed case and it didn't work out so well for him. So,
Oh
um,
my God.
yeah. So you're saying
A
that,
lawyer did that?
yeah, the DUI guy, Larry
It's
Foreman, he did
just,
that and he bragged about it too. He thought it was
I
funny,
mean,
but
he could have gotten credentialed on his own. He didn't need to get a fake one.
I
He
think it was
just,
a last minute trip. I don't know what his
like, "I don't have
motivation
time to
was,
get
but
credentialed."
yeah,
But
yeah.
credentials, your creds won't work here, even if you get them. And all of us are eligible as long as
Yeah.
you put out a
I mean,
certain number of,
do you
of
guys get attorneys? Like I have an attorney's pass that gets me into I don't have to go through metal detector. It works in state and federal court. It's a New York state attorney's pass, but I would think that other states would be reciprocal and I could just wave my pass and walk right in. I mean, that's what I
I,
do when I go to the Long Island serial killer. I don't wait in the media line. I'm an attorney. I have like superpowers. I get to go right through and like just walk into the courtroom like I have another case that I'm going to
right.
be appearing
I
for.
definitely,
So,
I didn't try that, but getting into the courthouse, maybe I could have gotten into the courthouse faster, but by the time I got there, there wasn't a long line anyway. But getting into the courtroom, you have to line up outside of the courtroom, and then they let the people in. And the media lines up kind of separate
yeah,
than
like behind the velvet rope, right?
everyone's behind the velvet rope. And then it sounded like on Friday it was like, if you go to lunch, someone's going to take your seat. So no one left for lunch. So I was letting Andrea know, I was like, "I'll hold your spot on Saturday if you want to go for lunch," because that's kind of crazy. But I forgot she wasn't there, and then I offered the same to Lawyer Lee, but she had her cushion. So you know, you
Oh.
leave your cushion. I guess that'll save your space. But
No,
Saturday there wasn't that many people. I suspect during the week you're going to have people trying to hop in someone's spot on the breaks, but people are going to, you know, reserve each other's seat. And
what's the capacity for how many seats
I
are
think
there?
it's like there's 10, maybe someone else knows even better
But he
than
said
me.
12
There's a
media
number,
seats. There was 10 in
like,
Karen Reed, but that was a tiny courtroom.
and then the defense gets a certain number of seats. The prosecution, like the lawyers get a certain number of seats. Prosecution get a certain number of seats. Richard Allen's family gets a certain number of seats, and the victim's family gets a certain number of seats.
And then how
So
many public seats are there? In Karen Reed, there was 10 media per day, 10 guests or whatever, 10 seats for the victim's family, 10 seats for defense family. No public were allowed in. You had
it
to
was,
be invited
I
by the
think it's
family.
25
That's how
public.
small this courtroom was.
I think it's 25 public. So people,
That's it.
I'm assuming that people get out to the line and they realize there's more than 25. I'm going to go. I doubt they continue to sit there, but I don't know. Like I'd be counting the people before I decided to stay. That
Right.
got
So
there
when
ahead of me.
Bob was there, so Bob was there Friday for openings. You were there, and he was there for jury selection too.
He was there for the second day of jury selection, not the first.
So when he was there on Friday for openings and a couple of witnesses, was he allowed to go into the well and look at the evidence?
That only started, he didn't try, but Andrea Burkhart did.
You're my girl. You get right on in. You weasel your way right in there, just like getting up to the front row of the pit. I
Rail,
know you're
right.
on the rail. You're on the rail. You know how to do it. You know
Easy
how
for
to
me
work
on the
it.
rail because I'm so short too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
you'd have a harder time. But on Thursday, the Thursday was in Carroll County. No one was there. So Bob and I got there because we drove in the morning. We got there sort of late, but everybody had already started making their way to Delphi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
not Carroll
the
County.
people. So they pick the jury in one county that's 2 hours away. So
Yeah.
they decided. I mean, they didn't ask for a change of venue. They just decided to pick the jury from a different county.
I think they did ask for a change of venue, and that was what they did. That's what they're starting to do more often. Is they'll just
Bust the jury in.
Right, and then bust the jury in, and the jury is they're staying in a hotel.
They're sequestered. Yeah.
They're sequestered. They only get 1 day to call their families.
And all their devices are taken away. They
Mhm.
take like the TVs out of the room, and they have no phones, and they have
They're
no
allowed-
laptops.
There's like I think a community area where they can watch TV. They're going to be monitored when they make their phone calls, which
Jail.
is, yeah. I mean, and this is something I've never heard of. They are allowing them to talk about the evidence at the end of each day as long as they're all together and they don't form an opinion. Which at first I was like, you know, how do you not form an opinion? Like, that's crazy.
Right.
You've never heard of such a thing. You know, deliberations is always supposed to be at the end of the day. And one of our viewers, let's see, because I took a picture of it so that I could remember who said it. Okay, so Diane in NOCO, she said that she thinks that the allowing people to talk about it is helpful, and she made some points about it. It helps them remember, and
She's
it
trying to
doesn't
speed it up.
necessarily mean that that they're not going to form an opinion. And I was like, you know what? When we talked about, and you and I talked about this in Karen Reed,
Yeah.
how hard it was to remember. I'm like, the jury, without having those discussions, I'd never be able to remember any of this. The only reason I'm able to recall this stuff is because we're talking about it. And you and I talked about how hard it would be for the jury to remember everything. So, maybe it's actually is a good thing. I just feel like it's such a line of when does that conversation carry over to forming an opinion?
Are they allowed to take notes?
They are.
Are they allowed to ask questions?
They are. And
Really?
they are asking questions. I can tell you, this is a very smart jury. I can tell you the questions that we got when I was there.
And tell us
and
the
I think
makeup of the jury too. I think I heard it was 8 women and 4
8
men. Is that
women,
right? Am I
there's 4
conflating my
men,
cases?
and then
Okay.
and then I think that the alternates might be 2 and 2, but it might be 1 and 3, 1 male and 3 women. I can't I can't remember. I actually
Oh, and I think Bob said all the women he thought were 50 plus, and then he felt bad, so he lowered it to 40. But like, it's okay.
No,
50 plus is fine.
and
And that's
and I did notice there are two younger girls that sit together, and then there are one or two other that are younger as well, and then the rest are much older. That
Oh.
it looks anyway. But I did, because Bob had me he had me he was like, all right, you're taking notes. On Thursday, he had me take notes. He's like, don't you mess up that jury count. So like he moved at a really convenient time to like move where he could see the jury better. And then I couldn't see the jury at all. So it's like, oh my God, gave me this important job of making sure that I have the,
like, I'm
so
gonna
I like,
fail. He's gonna be
right.
mad at me. He's gonna yell at me on the air.
No, but I'm gonna let
terrible.
everybody down if I don't get it right. So like
No.
I moved over, and then I'm like, I still can't see. And then I moved again, and then my chair creaked, and the bailiff like looked at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh my Lord, I'm gonna get kicked out of the courtroom. So there were 6 altogether men. So that must mean there are 2 alternates. 2 alternate men, 2 alternate women is what I thought.
All right, so 8 and 4 split on the jury, and they tell them ahead of time whether they're alternates or not. I don't like that.
Yeah,
Because
so.
I find that if you know you're going to be an alternate, you don't pay as much attention because you think, I may not deliberate, so I'm just going to
Right.
sit here and think about lunch.
But the one of the things that happened is they had investigator Mullins. He put on they did a video. It was February 13th, but like 2 years later, 3 years later, maybe I should pull it up exactly. But at the end, the jury was asking questions about how long it would take to make that walk and the time, and how fast it was going. And they brought out things that that neither side even brought out, and ended up showing that the investigator, they asked, so you're saying it would take 9 minutes to get from Freedom Bridge, which is all the way at the very front, to the end of the High Bridge, and I almost fell over, like 9 minutes. So, and I don't know everything they know, but they are taking diligent notes. So I think it was based on things that like the people had testified to initially, because the father went to pick up the girls. Okay. He was supposed to pick them up, and he was pulling up around 3:11, because he said he sent a text as he was approaching. And then like when he got there, he was looking for them at 3:14. He tried to call them or sent another text. And then he went through where he walked and how he went there. So I don't know if they were writing down all those times, if that's where they came up with this. So would it take 9 minutes to get there? And he answered yes. Then each side gets the chance to question them, just like they did in wasn't Karen Reed. There was another big trial where maybe it was that Florida one. I don't know. But the defense says, what? Would it take 9 minutes? And he said, well, it depends how fast you're walking. And then, of course, when you get to the bridge, you got to take that slow. You can't speed over that. And then he went around in circles. And at the end of the day, finally admitted that the video that was supposed to take was intentionally made to be at a walking pace took 20 minutes to get from one end to the other end. So why he tried to tell the jury, and I think it's because it's something that must have come out through some other testimony. Like, I think he knows why it's important to make it shorter, because he was being so evasive and weird about it. And then it just showed like he tried to mislead them. And I don't really understand why. The jury also asked a lot of questions about pinpointing exactly where the body was found. And I was watching when they were taking notes, and like things that I thought important, I would look up, and then I'd be like, all right. And I'd write down which jurors were actually, taking notes with it. Like one of the things was about how easy it would have been to cross. Like that was one thing where the guy was saying how hard it was to get across, that it was too deep. I looked up to see what jurors were writing that down. That was during Pat Brown's testimony. They had no jury questions on, oh no, that wasn't. That was Jake Jones' testimony. And they had no questions for him. But Patrick Brown, they again asked really compelling questions. They said, they asked, and the sound was so hard to hear, but they said they asked, who is your cell phone provider? Because he was able to he kept talking about, he's up at the cemetery making calls. He found the body. He made a phone call from finding the body to investigator Mullins to let him know he found the body. Did your call go through? Yes. So the jury question was, who was your cell phone provider?
That's a great question. And who was his cell phone provider?
He said Verizon. And then the defense, so clearly that I get the sense that was not Libby's provider, because the defense asks, well, in my household, my wife handles all that and she even pays the bill. And he's like, that's in my house too. But I think it was, I think it was Verizon, like kind of. And then how fast was the crime scene secured after you found the bodies?
Oh, they watched the Karen Reed
really
trial.
Great question.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not hear his answer. So I snuck out as soon as the jury left. I went out and I asked him, he was very polite. And I said, do you mind? I didn't hear what your answer was. And I reminded him the question. He's like, I don't know how quickly, but I don't remember what I said. You could tell that he was very like sort of overwhelmed by everything. And he couldn't remember what he said, but he said that it would have had to be something along the lines of, I don't know. However, as he was going up to leave towards the cemetery, numerous cops were coming down. He assumed they did it right then, but he couldn't remember what he actually answered to the jury, but it had to include the fact that he didn't know, because he didn't see any of that.
Thanks. Oh, congrats on the 25K. Somebody just said in the chat that you just broke 25K the other day. Yay, congratulations.
Let's see what we've got.
Everybody, if you're not from if you're watching on my channel, go subscribe to Defense Diaries, because they should have way more than 25K.
Yes, and
we have to really pump it up, you guys.
For sure. I'm like 25. Bob's like, we got to get to 25. I'm like, no, we've got to get to 100.
I just hit 70 the other day while I was on the air, so that was very exciting.
I remember when you hit 50, so it's been a quick incline.
My kids get me a rainbow cookie cake every time I get a big number, so I think now it'll be 75. When I get to 75, I'll get my rainbow cookie cake.
That sounds good. So
it's
anyone
like the little things,
right, who's not already following Melanie or subscribed to Melanie's channel, definitely do it. She is staying on top of Karen Reed. Like, that's not left her radar. All the updates, they keep coming. I know, like, exciting things are happening.
Yeah, Judge Bev might be out. We might be getting a new judge, because she's allegedly supposed to be off the rotation come January 1. She may have to go to a different county. So,
and that's hot off the presses, that, right?
Yeah, that broke today on a Sunday, of course, because that's when everything breaks, over the weekend when media is not going to pick it up.
So one thing, if you think about that video, right?
Yeah.
The guy appears to be looking down, kind of watching where he's walking. He's not addressing the girls. It's very, and like, where's the rest of this video? When is he saying the words to the girls? Like, you're definitely not like walking, looking down, saying down the hill, girls, like that.
Okay, yeah. So I have questions. Did they ever do a voice analysis?
Not as far as I know.
Or a voice comparison? I mean, do we know what his voice sounds like compared to the man in the video?
Not as far as I know.
I saw some chatters asking that question. Like, have you heard Richard Allen's voice, and saying that Richard Allen's voice sounds nothing like that? Where's the rest of the video is another question. Like, there's maybe like 43 seconds more or something. I've been watching the chat a little bit.
They know more than but I'm wondering the exact same thing, because I was just asking Sleuthy that today. I'm like, but I don't understand. I'm looking at the video. That person's not saying words. Where, when, and where, it's because people have said, how do you know it's the person in the video said the words? And I was like, well, look, clearly the person in the video is not just strolling along and someone else is kidnapping them. So either he said the words, or, he's with the person that kidnapped him. And if it's Richard Allen in the video, obviously that's not helpful for him. If it's not
Yeah.
Richard Allen, which is the defense is saying that's most assuredly not Richard Allen, that he was gone. He wasn't on the bridge at the same time of them. But I'm like, he's clearly not saying anything to them.
Here's
So
Lady Di is saying, didn't they say recently in the trial how the voice and the video are two different people?
if they
What-
said that in the, I think that I'm going to look through Bob's
the
notes.
opening,
But
maybe?
if that was, that it's probably something that the defense said.
And isn't there a way to estimate the height of that man on the bridge by the video? There's got to be a way. I mean, come on, we have technology, right? This is not.
You would think, and none of the witnesses said it. You know, he was. What did he look like? Well, he was exceptionally short.
Right, 5'4" is not a tall man.
Right.
Right.
No.
It's not average even. It's the same height as both girls apparently. And from what I hear, at least one of these girls was kind of feisty, you know, like she might have fought back, she might have screamed, she might have, you know, did this bridge guy have a partner? Did he say down the hill? Was there somebody else waiting at the bottom of the hill? I have so many questions.
And the other thing was that the father says he's you know, he's there at 3:15. So according to the state's theory at 3:11, 3:14, Richard Allen, like the murder's still happening, right? Because they're
Right.
saying they're not deceased until somewhere around 4 and maybe 3:45 he left. So they're still over there. Now I can understand if the perpetrator had a gun, maybe the girls are just going to listen. You know, it doesn't matter. But if you hear your father's voice calling for you,
Right.
and that was something that was focused on with every witness about how the sound traveled, how when Jake Jones and Pat Brown were, you know, like when Jake Jones was way down here and the fireman was way up there, they were able to hear each other across. They could hear when Pat Brown said, "I found the bodies." They
Good
could hear that
acoustics.
all the way over there.
Good
You know,
acoustics
so
would be a good
Dad
place.
said he was out there. He said, "I was calling her name." So how in the hell does this guy make it back with the whole family showing up? Everyone's showing up. The dad's out on the trails looking for the girls.
Mhm.
The family's coming on the roadways. You know, it's just I have so many questions. And one of the other things, because as I was going through the opening, we jumped around, but there was Betsy Blair. She's the one who drew the 50-year-old woman. I think she's around 50.
The one who said the tan
younger
jacket?
sketch.
Yeah.
No, the younger sketch.
Oh, okay.
She says that she had to use the bathroom. She was out jogging. She had to use the library at 2:11. And when she passed by the CPS building, there was not a Ford Focus there. She was very clear. She described the car, and guys, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting the damn name, so someone stick it in the chat. But she said a family member of hers had that car. It's a very unique looking car, and she was certain that was the car that was parked at the CPS building. So you heard them asking in the press conference, "Hey, people, we need to know what car was parked at the CPS building." So and that she had left the trail at 2:14, and they were not there. And think about it, the picture was taken at 2:07, and which makes you think that the girls are still very relaxed, you know.
Right.
You don't see anybody in it, but it's a really long bridge, so
Yeah.
you know, much longer than I even realized until today. And then the down the hill voice supposedly is at 2:13. So where'd this person pop out of? You know?
Yeah. I mean, it looks like, right. And they were walking in I mean, I have so many questions.
Yeah.
So she took the video of this guy saying down the hill.
At
Was he just like, did he happen to be in the background of the video she was already taking? Where's the rest of the video? Is that like a little tiny, you know, piece of the video? Like a little, what else was in the video? You know, was she taping her friend again, doing a TikTok dance or something? And this guy just happens to come up behind her?
Well, what everyone has been assuming is that, like, when this person's approaching her, that she is now suspicious, and she's like she's secretly filming him because she knows something is going
She
on.
thinks he's creepy.
Right.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, figuring out his height is physics, right? Precoson says, nope, in the 2019 presser that you played, Doug Carter says the video and the voice are the same man.
Okay, so he said it right in the video. But at 5:44, the phone is no longer gets any communications. Stops. No, none of the
At
pings are
what
going
time?
through. Oh, you know what? Hers was AT&T. We do know that.
Right.
At Libby
And-
was AT&T. It was 5:44. Her grandmother, as soon as she got there, she's calling AT&T trying to get them to ping. They won't. But then the police were, texts were going through and pings were coming. At 5:44, it stops. And then at 4:33 a.m., the phone comes back on. It connects to a tower again, and
Wow.
all of her messages start coming through. But oddly enough, they said that after 4 a.m. So I just thought it was strange that they didn't say like right at 4:30 or right around 4:33. What they said in the opening, the defense is after 4 a.m. human hands handled that phone. And I'm
Mhm.
assuming, like we saw in Murdoch, like we were talking about, you saw them. They lifted up the phone rotated, this, that, So I'm
Right.
assuming.
Or, they had to use a fingerprint to open it. So a hand had to touch that. One of the girls' fingerprints touched it, or somebody had. My initial thoughts on this have always been that they were taken somewhere else and then brought back. And and there's more than one person. Those were my gut thoughts on this, just from the, shallow dive that I did into it.
Right.
And that seems even more possible now. Because
Yeah.
how could it, if I haven't seen the crime scene photos, and I guess you haven't seen them yet either, but from what they described on court TV when they were leaked, you know, by somebody who worked at the defense team's office, apparently, it was a very gruesome crime scene, right?
Yeah.
Something that probably took a long time, something that probably required setup and,
And I haven't heard anything about blood on the ground.
right.
Like I'm assuming it has to be there. The state can't say she's covered in blood, but where and I think one of them, am I making this up that one of them had lost a lot of blood or had been, am I making that up? I could be thinking of something totally different. But that's another question that I have that I'm
Hmm.
hoping that we'll hear is, where did all the blood go?
Somebody said maybe Abby was still alive. I mean, yeah, anybody who has ever watched an episode of Criminal Minds knows, how twisted some of these people are. And they take them and they do things with them, and then they let them live for a little while, kind of like the Long Island serial killer did. And, this is, they were killed by a knife, right? Throat was cut on one of the girls. Did they say only one of the girls in opening or both?
So
Were the clothes wet? I want to know. And Erin says Abby didn't have much blood on her clothes. But again, the girls one of them was naked and one of them was wearing the other one's clothes.
So Abby, the smaller girl, was wearing Libby's clothes. And in my mind, because I think, and this is all speculation, the phone
Mhm.
was turned on to help them find the family. Or maybe it just reconnected. But in my mind, I was like, maybe someone turned on the phone so that they could find them. And maybe they wanted to clothe them. Like somebody felt bad and wanted to clothe them. And it was easier to clothe Abby. But it could have been some weird ritual thing. I don't
Right.
know.
And this is
Like
where I want to know about some Odinist rituals. If anybody knows, email me. Somebody said in the chat, Bob's phone is dying. Pick him up at midnight, Ali.
oh, midnight even.
I think
Okay.
that's what it said, but
I can't tell. I wasn't sure if Bob's putting messages out there or if
he's a lurker.
Dizzy and Mandy are.
Miko says the cause of death was exsanguination, loss of blood. I haven't seen an autopsy report, but I know, Miko, I know you do your
The
homework.
loss of blood is what I remember in my mind. That's what I was thinking. So I'm like, well, where is
Exsanguinated.
it
Oh, yeah,
all?
look, Michael says that too. Meaning they were drained.
Right. So that's right
I mean,
there.
that's a
Weird.
ritualistic thing, right?
It's very, very weird. And it's just like, some people are like, well, you've got normal people that kill people and they don't have any criminal history. I just can't imagine you search their electronics. There's got to be something weird.
Yeah.
There's got to be excess pornography. You would expect if this was sexually motivated, that there'd be child pornography on his electronics. Like, what, person rises to the level of murder if it's sexually related of children that aren't like obsessing already about child pornography, even if there's even if they've never been caught, committing a crime before. And if you're going to leave any sort of, if it turns out, and again, we don't know. So as of right now, motions in limine, as you know, Melanie, are just preliminary rulings. They're the preliminary rulings based on what the judge has heard so far. She's saying, nope, you're not getting any of this in. That doesn't mean that at trial, when they make their offers of proof based on what has already been admitted and whatever else they can drum up, who knows? I doubt they've stopped, that they can convince her to let it in. But
Good.
No, I was just going to say, I do think that's going to be an appeal issue, that she's basically prevented them from presenting a defense at all. But one of the things I didn't want to forget to say is that the Hares, we had testimony from the mom and the sister. They have, in the past several days before their trial, provided a DNA sample. So it's out and it's being considered, if I didn't already say that.
Hair. I mean, what if there was say this was a group, a coven? I don't know. I'm not, listen, witches in the chat, I know you're here. I love you. I'm not disparaging covens at all. I want to join a coven, quite honestly. But let's say there was a woman involved here. So it's not unheard of. If it was a group
it was a
thing,
female who confessed to her mother.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you forgot to tell me that. So that's interesting.
She confessed to her mother. The police were aware of it, and they just said that she was, my understanding, talking nonsense. I mean, maybe the chat knows more about that. I know that Bob does, but that it was that she said she was there, and that they said she was like just crazy. It was mental health issues or something.
Well, you'd have to be to exsanguinate someone, wouldn't you? Wouldn't that go hand in hand with draining someone's blood? People are saying in the chat also that there were didn't they say there were two different blades? One was a serrated knife, one was a non-serrated blade. Sounds to me like it could be two different perpetrators.
So in
each with their own steak knife.
The defense tried to, they told them about it being two different, and they tried to say that suggests that it's the two different blades, that it was two different killers, and the judge was like, "Oh, you're bordering on argument." So she was
an opening. Okay.
Right, an opening. Right.
Yeah, but they can close on that if it's going to come in at some point, right?
For sure. When they want two different weapons to mean two different assailants, that's exactly what it means. And when they want it to mean he just brought two knives or two guns, that's what they want it to mean, is, just, but they did mention in the opening how the gun was sent to the lab and the bullet was only cycled, and that, you're going to hear from experts, but they said you don't need an expert. If you got eyes, you're going to see what they're saying about this bullet, and they call it the magic bullet, is not true. But there was something someone asked that I was looking to see if they mentioned, and maybe it was about evidence about him not being on there. Maybe that's all. No, there was something more that somebody just asked that I was looking to see.
Get nerdy says thoughts on appeal because the third party is not allowed in. Also, can't they get the height of bridge guy from the video? I would think that they could. And also, who knows what's going to happen with regard to opening the door, right?
Right.
The door could be opened by a witness, and then, this stuff has to come in. So it's too early to talk about appeals right now because the trial's just starting. So we kind of got to wait to see how it goes.
But if at the end of the day it doesn't get in, door's not open, judge doesn't change her mind, I think it's one of the strongest appellate issues that they have out there.
I mean, isn't it your constitutional right to have a defense?
Yeah, and Karen Reed, the judge didn't allow certain third-party evidence, but still allowed them to put basically the same evidence in under the purview of challenging the investigation.
Yeah, I think they couldn't open on it, but they could, they could present the alternate theory, and they did.
Right, but she was allowing a lot of that, wasn't she allowing as challenging the investigation? Because didn't she deny some third party? She wasn't going to give third party instructions at the end as to some, or I thought there was something.
There was stuff about letting harassment in, whether the witnesses were going to be able to talk about harassment. And then she said no, but she said, but if they bring it up organically, they can. And everyone, all of the witnesses were sitting at home watching YouTube thinking, okay, now I can bring it up because I'll just bring it up organically. And they did.
Organically. I'm like trying to get my computer to charge over here. There we go. Okay. Have you been looking at most of these? We've got a lot of super chats, and I don't know if we've answered any of them. Like CB,
I don't have the power to highlight from my side, so you got to highlight from yours. I
get an
guess.
older pen. There's still some around. She's just taking perfect pen notes.
I love my pen.
I don't know who's taking perfect pen notes. Maybe he means like the court reporters taking perfect pen notes.
There's a court reporter. Is the court reporter not using a steno machine, or is she using a pen? No.
I didn't see anybody. I would assume that they're using a machine. I've never seen anybody.
Well, in Massachusetts, they talk into the thing that looks like an athletic cup.
I saw that. Mad Hatter does not 214. Thank you for your super sticker. Tell me the guy on the left doesn't look like an Odinist. I think we did talk about that one.
I don't know what they look like, but now I'm interested.
Danielle X, a member for 2 months. Thanks for covering this. And
Andrea takes meticulous notes. Maybe that's what it is.
She's saying and a collab with Defense Diaries. So that's you.
Hi, Danielle.
And this is someone else. I think when they have this little link here, it means it's someone from your chat. So
yeah, that's what it is. So thanks, Danielle, for gifting a membership as well. And Law Office of Andrew Myers. Thank you. Following the Nebraska Press Association, U.S. Supreme Court balancing of fair trial, free press interests, would either of you comment on how questionable it is that this court will not allow video?
Well, Melanie was saying in New York they don't allow it.
Federal court doesn't allow it either.
But here they do. But often judges can, use their discretion, and it is up to her discretion to let it in. But I just find it in direct contradiction to their public record statutes that they're not allowing us to hear the audio, and they're not giving access to the exhibits. So thank you so much, Crankin, the real booty. In my opinion, the presser cop spoke to himself with a look the other way narrative and lost interviews and got a job in the district attorney's office. Does he have an ironclad alibi for the 2 p.m. at 2:13 until they were found? Did he say, is he the one that said GTFO to the FBI? All I know is that they told the FBI to get out. That's parts for sure. And I do know that Mullins said on 2:13 he was working. I know she's being ironic here, like, well, what's his alibi? Right. But we appreciate it. And here from your side is, why isn't it not letting me click on Shannon?
Oh, thanks, Shannon. Thanks for the super chat and thanking us for covering the case.
And this is one of your viewers.
Michael, wasn't the tie-dye t-shirt and the tennis shoe found on the south side of the river and the remains on the north side? Oh, I didn't know that.
No,
is it a creek or a river?
That's what I thought as well. It's a creek, but it's
deep and it's
and it flows. That's what I thought as well. But no, they are both on the same side. At least Joe Schmo's video map shows that. And when I went through everything, that's what it looks like to me as well. And there was one other map out there. Let's see. I don't know, because there was someone else reporting it was on the other side. But what I did was I put into my map Riley Park, which is where they said that they started. Jack Jones and Shane Haygood, who we have not heard yet from. And I followed it around. They said they followed the riverbed. So I followed it around. And when I followed it around, they ended up on the same side. Because remember, what he testified to was he tried to go across, or maybe Shane tried to go across and couldn't to get it. And then they went up to the firemen. So that means they were on the same side to get up to the High Bridge to where the fireman was. But but maybe I'm wrong, but that is what I understood. And then on Pat Brown's way down from the cemetery, heading towards where they found the clothes, that's when he found the bodies. And he said that at first he thought that they were mannequins. And he was a very emotional witness. He really choked up as he was testifying. So
Wow,
I
that's got,
think
that's a
the tennis shoe. So it was a Nike, a black Nikes that were found. And I wrote in my notes that shoes with an S. And then I went back and I put it in parentheses and then made a note to myself. I don't know if he said shoe or shoes. And I asked Sleuthy Goosey, was if she knew were there two black shoes, because there was a shoe found under Abby. So I think one Nike shoe was found under Abby along with Libby's phone, and one Nike shoe was found close to where the tie-dye shirt was found.
And here's what's so interesting is that you're a lawyer, you know how to take notes, and you were confused by your own notes, and the jury has taken notes, and then they're supposed to go back. How long is this trial supposed to last?
A month.
How many weeks? A month. They're supposed
We
to go
did
back
say
and
they
then they're
said
going to be
it
fighting
before.
over their notes. Like they said they found two shoes. No, they only said they found one shoe. And then this is what happens. I don't know if they allow readbacks in Indiana.
No, she said no readbacks in opening. When the
That's
judge gave,
insane.
she said no readbacks. And I think it's something probably left to their discretion, but she
Right.
said same thing that happened in Reed. She said no readbacks.
Yep. That's
But
right.
when I looked at it, what I thought was they were both found on the same side. I just didn't realize that it was all the way across. Like I thought maybe it was like, because it more towards like the middle, because what it says, it was what he said, the words he wrote, he spoke, where the shirt got hung up on a root that was out. So in my mind, I'm thinking, what was he saying, hung up, or was he saying it got trapped? And what I thought he said is that it got trapped, but the words he spoke was, I saw the shirt, it was hung up on some roots. So
Like it was placed.
like I said, I think
Hmm.
we use the word hung up to mean like it got stuck.
Got stuck. Yeah.
But the use of those words, I would have sought to clarify if he meant, was it up high? Was it wrapped around the bottom? Like, are you saying you thought that it looked like someone hung them there, or that it got stuck there in the water? And then ladies who lawyer are also part-time models.
Oh yeah, we're going to be performing Chicago. My co-star here, Catherine Zeta-Jones, she's going to be playing the role of Roxy. I don't know who's Roxy, and I'll be the Renee Zellweger role, and we're going to be doing that.
There you go.
So Chicago is a great musical. Thank you.
She's
Thanks for the compliment, though. That was really sweet.
Felicia became a new member for you. Can you see the
Thanks, Felicia.
little paper?
Yeah, I
clip
can see
there?
him like in the side column there. He also asked, Johannes also asked, has anyone done height analysis? And then someone said in my chat, Cece said they did an analysis of the person walking on the bridge and said that he was between 5'8" and 5'10". So we'll see if that evidence comes in at this trial, because
I didn't see a mention of that in the opening, but you know, I remember hearing like out there people saying that they thought people were trying to do a height analysis. So maybe she knows something we don't know yet. And Elf, thank you very much. We did talk about the exhibits and the judge. Oh, she's on your end.
Ali, yeah, she's saying, tell us what happened when you went in there and got yelled at. I survived Judge Gull. That's going to be the next Defense Diaries
Dark
t-shirt.
Willow was one of your viewers of Gull.
Now they've added, looks like he killed a pig. Oh, is that new?
So yeah, well, not new, but she said, so Sarah Carbow, that's the one whose sketch of what looks more like Richard Allen, her sketch was used. She originally said a tan jacket and jeans, and I think muddied or something, but later said muddied and bloodied, like he killed a pig, which I thought was, which I kind of think is funny, because right across from the Mears entrance is the Mears farm, and they've got like a butcher area there,
like a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, they've got something there. And there was a son that lived there. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know his age.
Yeah.
but they had people that were living there. And I don't know, I guess I can't say for sure they were living there at that time. But when I went out there to see it, there was like this little, I think it was known that they slaughtered stuff on that, at the mayor's farm. So could she have just seen somebody walking, or she didn't say bloodied the first time. She didn't say that until after all of this, not initially. I don't think there was. Jane asks, wasn't there another way back to his car, a back road? Not from what I can see and what we saw. There's that main road, that 500 road, and then I don't know where you're hiding. Like I said, there's the wooded areas are just not that deep. This is also from your side.
Well, thanks, Cat's Pajamas, for the Canadian 20. I don't think we're stupid people. We can clearly see the shenanigans going on. How is she legally allowed to get away with it? Not allowing the audio tapes, not allowing public viewing of the evidence. I don't understand.
We agree.
Judge's discretion. But yeah, I mean, especially because this case has been really looked at, like everyone in the public that has looked into this thinks it's insane and crazy. Yeah. And with all the pretrial shenanigans, you're absolutely right.
And thank you, LS. Somebody got some podcast memberships.
Yay.
Lindsay Bay, thank you very much. The maps assimilated us to the exact stuff we needed to know that has been gagged. Thanks, Ali and Melanie, and thanks, Joe Schmo.
Yep. Good map work.
Chrissy's giving me $1.99 to tell me to pick up my husband at midnight. Thank you. When presenting a case, how do you decide who to put on? Do you put on the strongest part of your case first? What do you do, Mel?
Well, I try to tell the story in chronological order. That's the way I would do it. I'm not a defense attorney. I'm a civil litigator, but when putting on a plaintiff's case, that's the way that I would do it. And say that's what I do. But I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. Like Lally was just throwing up people up there. It seemed at random. Like it's like everybody who was everybody, just get up here. He'd do all law enforcement first, and then he did some, I don't know. But how would you do it if you were trying this case?
So when the defense goes, it's going to just kind of depend on the story you want to tell. So it can change depending on the kind of defense that we have or the story we want to tell. If we might not need to be chronological, but we might want to put certain witnesses together just because they highlight something. So it changes. And here with the prosecution, I think that they're doing the right order. They started with family members. So they were also able to do, like your proof of life witnesses. But at the same time, those witnesses started to also paint the timeline at the same time. The sister, what time she dropped them off, the, grandmother, what they were doing during the day, the father who was picking them up, what time he got there, how long he spent, and what time everybody started to arrive. And then them going into the searches and how long they lasted and who was where seems to make a lot of sense. Although their first witness, investigator Mullins, said he wasn't part of it at all. Yet they put him on to say, did people search in this area? Were people searching in this area? I kept writing in my notes, object.
And it's so hard to sit there and watch and not just get up and object.
Eventually they did object. And what they do here, I didn't see it in the, maybe I did see it in the Reed trial, but what they do here is the other side just stands up and says, Your Honor, I'd like to voir dire. And they voir dire like on a certain line of questioning. So at some point he did say, Your Honor, I'd like to voir dire him. And then he said, you said you didn't take part in any of the searches. No. And you didn't take part in any of the searches on the 14th. No. And then the state kind of gave up because they knew, I think they were just waiting for the objection. So the state didn't ask that witness Mullins any more questions about who was searching where, because they were trying to use Mullins to say nobody searched in the area where the girls were found, but he wasn't out there. And there were a lot of people. We heard the first witness we heard from, Jacob Jones, and who we haven't heard from yet, but we will, Shane Haywood. They were searching on their own. They didn't go into the, maybe it was Pat Brown. Like he didn't get assigned a spot. He just went to where he wanted to go. Or people had come in late and they were like, all right, they've already finished up. I actually do think that it was, now that I think about it, it definitely was Jacob Jones and Shane Haywood. They just went on their own. And there were other people that did that. Like they don't know. And they took phone numbers from some people, but not everybody. I know it makes it hard for the defense, to track down and try to talk to everybody who was out there. But Lindsay Bay, member for 3 months. Thank you. Thanks, Defense Diaries, for covering this.
It also depends on the availability of the witnesses too. Like sometimes you have to take people out of order, especially medical witnesses and experts.
And that's what happened on Friday for them, because on Friday, that's the day I wasn't there and Bob left early, so he had to get to the airport. The state said, we have no more witnesses today. And the judge got like angry and lashed back, like, I want you guys. And he was like, all right, we found someone in the building from the sheriff's department. We'll call him. So they called that guy out of turn. And that was the guy that went down the road, the private road, where the defense is saying the girls were actually taken away from the area on, and that wrapped around the creek. I just can't tell you how close they did actually get. Like, should he have been able to see somebody or not? We'll have to see more where they kind of pinpoint everything. And then I think you brought this up, Johannes's other question, so we addressed that. But thank you very much for the super sticker. And
yeah, I mean, ritualistic. I think the original detectives who were on the case did follow that type of theory
for sure.
And I don't know if they were told
excluded.
to stop.
They were told to stop. They were so worried about whether or not the state, like the prosecutor, was aware of this, and the defense, like he sent certified letters, like, this is everything we have on this other group that we were, with names and people. And it's not just like, it wasn't necessarily.
So where did those detectives go? Did they retire? Or were they fired? Like
they were listed as defense witnesses. They've been motion in limine. The judge excluded them unless something changes and they're able to make this offer of proof. And it wasn't that they said that it was a ritualistic sacrifice in the same way that the defense is saying, but they definitely identified there were signs of someone who was familiar with Odinism
symbols and yeah,
and they identified people that they thought were involved, including the person I spoke of earlier, who said, if you find my DNA and I can explain it, is that okay? And people who had, they did put, Greg Ferenczi was one of them. He did, and he was murdered.
Wait, was he a detective? He was law enforcement?
He was, and he was murdered. I think it was he killed in a hunting accident or was he murdered? Or I definitely know there was something odd about the way he died.
And wait,
so
when the whole leak of the photos happened, right? Wasn't there another, like a suicide? Like, wasn't there somebody who killed themselves after that?
Yeah, and it's so strange.
Like who, was maybe like involved in the leak of the photos?
So someone gave the photo. He gave the photo to someone. The guy that killed himself was like in the line of people. Photo given to him.
The chain of custody of the leak.
Photo given to the person who then leaked it. So, and they apparently, when they went out and questioned him, they were very harsh. And he was military, and he was like, they're saying, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your reputation. It was a huge thing. And I, like when I heard about it, I'm like, that doesn't track with me. You don't kill yourself. This is not that big of a deal to kill yourself. I'm like, what else is going on? For me, it made me think there is more going on, but that's, all like just my mind kind of getting carried away.
Well, yeah, it's a little, there's no such thing as coincidence. Auntie Bevs is saying one is in jail, one was murdered at the FBI field office by a former corrections officer, Molotov cocktails. You're talking about the two detectives that were following the theory, the Odinist theory, or the.
Wow. So, all right. So I know Precosin. So she's like, no, the lead FBI was assassinated in the FBI lawn by a federal corrections officer, and that's Ferenczi.
Okay.
Sergeant Thompson Detective Miller. But and then there was
Oh, so it was
Click.
the FBI that was following the Odin or ritualistic
There was
theory.
there were FBI involved as well.
And
And
they
I
were
think
told to back off.
FBI was kicked out. I think that the FBI could have been investigating, a lot like other stuff going on by that group, like in this area. Because you use the FBI to investigate hate crimes and
Hmm. Yeah.
that type of behavior. So they could have been, who knows? But yeah, I looked up. People are like, maybe. Indy Cindy says maybe the jurors can work for law enforcement at note taking because there's nobody's got their notes of interviews and stuff like that.
Sounds familiar.
But there was a Click was one of the main people that was going to testify for the defense, and he was arrested. But what it looks like is, and I don't know how it came about. I was hoping Bob and I could kind of dig in to see how it came about, but that it was all like fraud related type stuff, that his reports, he was doing CPS investigations and saying that he interviewed witnesses. This is what is alleged: interviewing witnesses never interviewed, that he went out to houses when people weren't there. So if he did those things, it sounds pretty bad. It doesn't mean that he's not a good investigator, but it
Mhm.
was very odd, the timing of this arrest. And like when Bob and I first heard about it, that got us right away. What? It's all dishonesty related, but I
Right.
don't, so it's very suspicious. It's all very suspicious. And
Everybody
like
smash the like button while you're in here, while we're thinking of it.
yeah, let's see. I love to do this and check.
Smash the
Like,
like
let's check in
button.
on it and see what is what do we have as far as likes.
Yeah, and I've got 1,200 watching and 900 likes, so that's pretty good, but you guys
That
can do
is
better.
pretty
I
good.
know you can. I know
That's
you can do
very
better.
good. Oh, is this accurate? I'm showing 2.3. What?
Oh, maybe
Wow,
combined?
guys.
Wait, hold on.
2.3, 2,300 likes. Now, is this the real Michael
No.
Osbrook? Because I'm confused from before. Mullen's ex-brother-in-law, if this is, I'm assuming it is, or my mods wouldn't have highlighted it.
Mhm.
Mullen's ex-brother-in-law. So that's the investigator he now is what they call their tech guy at the prosecutor's office, but he was the head of this investigation. He was the chief of police at the time. Also in possession of crime scene pics, who was murdered.
He was
Mullen's
also murdered.
ex-brother-in-law was also murdered, and he had crime scene pics?
A lot of
What
people
is
turning up
going
dead that were
on?
investigating this
A
case.
lot of people are turning up dead. That is crazy.
And that only happens when they want to shut people up because they're getting too close to the truth. Or they put them in
I-
jail, or they get rid of them another way. This whole thing is
Crazy.
sus.
Tech guy lost 70 days of interview. Yeah.
I'm
The
getting
tech
this
guy,
is
they just overwrote.
Oh yeah,
overwrote
so
a
they
whole
lost
bunch of-
all of the original, right? So the
Yeah.
first 70 days of this investigation, everything's missing.
Gone.
Gone? Just
Gone.
like the dog ate my homework kind of thing?
Yes, and they didn't take
Okay.
any notes.
Couldn't be
and they don't-
recovered. There was no backup. There was
No.
a
Nope.
flood. I mean, what are they claiming?
I forget what it was, but it was something like that it got full. God, maybe someone in the chat remembers. Like, I remember what it was at the time. They had some sort of bullshit excuse. So Precocent, thank you, says Mullen's brother-in-law had pics in 2020, shot with another, and
The house set on fire.
What is happening? What is happening?
You know, if anybody in Indiana was watching the Karen Reed trial, they're going to be side-eyeing this whole entire investigation. And they're just going to be like, wait,
Karen Reed
so
trial,
everything went missing?
it's going to be helpful for jurors and defense attorneys for a long time to come.
Historic.
Anti-Bev, Click was so meticulous and ethical, he hired an attorney to send a certified letter to the prosecution, forced them to take all their files from his detailed investigation regarding the third party and Odinis connection, and that was his way of making sure that stuff got turned over to the defense. Like, this is coming out. But he's the one that now they've charged with these, issues about his reporting and lying in his reports about.
Oh, because they're trying to destroy his credibility in this case?
Yeah. Unless he
Interesting.
really did it, who knows? But the timing is still just very, very suspicious.
What is what do the families think? Do the families think that they've got the right guy? Have they
No,
been
I've
vocal
always
about it at
wondered
all?
the same thing, and I don't think that they have been vocal about it, um, because there was at some point that I remembered. I don't know. I feel like if Bob and I were on a live with somebody, that some of the family did have some questions. That they honestly did have some questions at some point, but I can't remember specifically.
Hmm.
Tell Melanie about Lutrull. Okay, so do you know that one of the prosecutors was um, found liable for m- for fabricating evidence in a criminal proceeding? This just happened
No.
so somebody they were sued civilly in civil court and federal court. The judge, now you'll understand the significance of this. The defense filed multiple motions. Uh, they were um, everybody filed motions for um, judgment on the pleadings,
Hmm.
and the judge denied their motions and granted it for the plaintiff. So
Summary judgment for the plaintiff?
summary judgment for the plaintiff
That's
on
big.
fabricating evidence, saying that there was probable cause that there weren't. They had the officers involved and the people that they were using in their depositions admitted that they didn't have any reason to believe the things that they put in there.
Wow.
It was
So this
I
was
don't
without a trial. This is just on papers.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and she was very harsh in her ruling, like that they knowingly created and submitted to the court, and then see it was all because they seized a lot of money. It was over prescribing. So they seized a ton of money, and his like $1 million was tied up for years. I mean, it destroyed this guy's reputation, but he's still a prosecutor. I'm like, well, where's the ARDC on this? Like, how does that not become an issue that you can still practice when a federal judge
Civil.
finds, yeah, but the federal judge made a finding that they of fraud, of conspiracy, of fabricating evidence.
When did it happen? Because wouldn't that have to?
I think it happened in 2020, but this ruling, the ruling just came down like a couple weeks ago.
So then
Weeks
wouldn't
ago.
the federal judge like automatically refer it to the bar association? And
You
then
would
they
think
would have to,
so. You
yeah.
think so. I had an issue in federal court with a judge, long story, but whatever, that
I can't imagine.
that they gave me like a probationary thing, but through the through the federal proceedings, but then it took 3 years for my state ARDC to decide to take action on the same thing. Ultimately, they said, "All right, it's been too long," and nothing happened. But or no, right? They ended up giving me probation in state court because one of the reasons was that so much time had passed, and the other stuff was all nonsense. So, but you would think that if the federal people took his license, he would have to report something, to the
Yeah.
state. I'm just surprised he's staying on. It seems bizarre.
Well, they can't bring it up at trial because he's the attorney and he's
Right,
not a witness. So,
right. But I'm surprised the defense didn't file a motion to somehow exclude him because, you know,
because, a federal judge found that he was crooked
right.
or on the
Right.
take or whatever.
Yep.
Sergeant Stephanie Thompson, who conducted many of the lie detector exams for this case, was also killed in a suspicious house fire.
It's crazy.
Somebody's
So
an arsonist.
So Danny B, Bob and I we did a whole episode on this Lutrull case. So that's what we're talking about right now, was a doctor who was framed by the prosecutor in the Allen's case.
Huh.
And the judge found that they fabricated the evidence, and but he's still
So
he's
the
second
doctor was
chair.
framed and then he sued them, just like it's going to happen in the Karen Reed case. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'd like to know who that plaintiff was. If anybody knows, email me.
I've got it. We did a whole
That's my
episode on it.
jam.
So it was, let's see. Probably still had it. I think I actually
Almost
just,
so much tomfoolery going on since the start with this case, as hippie chick.
let's see. Come on. Well, I'll email it to you because I've got the complaint and the judge's ruling on summary judgment. My computer's moving too slow right now. Oh, here it is, Lutrull order highlighted. So the plaintiff, it says you've got too many files open.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I have way too many tabs open at all times.
It's like, nope, you're out.
Scott, who's one of my moderators, is also retired NYPD, says arson is the hardest crime in the world to prove.
Arson, oh, because of
Hmm.
there was an error. I closed a document already. Just leave me be. Oh, it's giving me the same warning over and over. All right, I gotcha. There was an error. I got it.
Was that Bob? I thought you had to pick him up at
No.
midnight.
No, it's not Bob.
Is there another man in your room? What's...
It's a woman.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for calling me out. Doxed me. I'm having an affair. Busted.
Busted on like it can't get worse when you're
Can't get
live on
worse.
YouTube and it happens like the naked guy walks behind you, like it happened in everyone's Zoom calls during the panty, you know?
Sorry, babe.
Busted.
I assume so, actually. I haven't been paying attention. So Lutrull order, give it one more try. There it goes. Okay, so the plaintiff is Dale W. Economan. I'll give you
See, oh,
the docket number in the chat, and I'll copy the.
it's federal. I can get
Yeah.
all the documents off Pacer.
Yeah, it's in District Court, Northern District Court of Indiana. It's the 7th Circuit,
Okay.
same circuit as Illinois.
Oh, hi, Beth. I thought it was the cat. I thought the cat was knocking on the door for food. Oh, okay. You can take it.
And they're like, feed me.
No, she needs the Dyson Air Wrap. You know, we have to share because it is a life-changing tool, but it's very expensive. So
What is it?
the Dyson Air Wrap, it's like a hair dryer that has like all of these extensions on it. Ladies, if anybody has a
What?
Dyson Air Wrap, oh yeah, it's life-changing. It changes your hair. It's incredible.
So that's it. Dale W. Economan et al.
Onoman. Man.
There were multiple plaintiffs, multiple defendants. So,
All right.
um,
So they framed a bunch of people in that case.
well, it
Not
was
just-
like him
not just the good
personally
doctor.
and his business. He sued them personally and the business, and there might have been another doctor in there.
Oh, you have a deadhead mod in here. CH busted down on Bourbon Street. Love it. See my poster? Who watched the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction last night? I just want to point out to you that Cher is 78 and I want whatever she's taken.
Oh yeah, Truth Justice said that. That's wait, is that Mandy? Or no, that's Seeking
That's
Justice.
yeah, we just looked
Sorry,
at this one
Seeking
before.
Justice.
Stephanie Thompson.
Everyone, including the families, have been under a gag order this whole time. Yeah, they won't. They've.
Oh, so the
actually-
families can't talk about whether or not they think Richard
Right.
Allen is guilty, the way that the Idaho 4 families have been very outspoken about their feelings on that
Gave me the
case.
name
So
before I gave it to you, she had texted to me. She also had texted me the Lutrull federal order while I was
Oh.
looking for it. If I paid attention to all my texts, people are like,
you can't.
"Hey, by the way,
My kids look at YouTube before they'll text me to see if I'm live because they know if I'm live. I'm like, I'm not answering you right now. I can't. I'm too.
And
But now
Travis-
I'm not running the stream, so it doesn't
Travis
matter.
had wanted me to point out that the and I guess this is an assumption. Well, there's too much here for that, but I can go with the first thing. Sorry, Travis, but I didn't see any of this. But he was saying that that maybe there's some sort of stipulation between the parties or an agreement about this hair, because it is strange, right, for them to be testing hair while trial is going on.
Mm.
So I think that the defense probably wants to know what that hair is as well.
You would think.
Typically, if I was like concerned that, well, I'd rather, because if it were me, I'd be thinking, and I don't know what they know. So maybe to them, even if it's a family member, it's important. But I'd be thinking them not testing it all this time just leaves open that it could have been,
An
like you said,
accomplice?
an accomplice, a woman involved. If they test it and it ends up being grandmoms, that's not real helpful.
Hmm.
No.
But if it's, listen, for the Gilgo 4, 3 of Rex Sherman's wife's hairs were found on the duct tape of the women's bodies were wrapped in. They're not saying she's involved, but
Right. It
came
identifies
from,
him.
yeah, it's his
Right.
wife.
And I think that it's just that because he's right that you would think that that has to be by an agreement or it's not going to be admissible. You can't just pull evidence during trial and be like, I'm going to throw this at you. And so if it is, it's just the fact that the defense really wants to know. They're probably, hoping that it's going to point towards the real killer. Because I do think they strongly believe that it's not Richard Allen. At least, that's what they've been, yelling and screaming from the rooftops all along.
Who?
So the defense that they
Well, yeah,
don't
aren't they
do.
representing him pro bono now?
No, I think
Like,
they got so to the Supreme Court. They only asked and the attorney that handled that. I remember asking, why aren't you guys looking to get them just reappointed appointed as individual as pro bono counsel? Like you've got the law is even more clear on that. And she said,
Uh-huh.
no, she should have had no right to remove them
in the
as
first place.
court-appointed counsel. We don't even want to give them an out. We want the Supreme Court to say she should have never done that. And the Supreme
Mhm.
Court raised that question during arguments, and they said, "Well, are you also asking for the alternative remedy of them being allowed to enter their appearance pro bono?" And the lawyer was like, "We don't think this should have gone past that. They should have never put them off." But he might have said, "Yeah, maybe we'll take that alternative if we have to." But I think they stayed kind of firm that they wanted them to be back as court appointed. So they are back as court appointed counsel.
I mean, if the hair was found in the girl's hand, right? Most girls are taught
Wrapped around
that's
her
how you
finger.
fight back. Pull hair, you know,
Right.
try and scratch someone so they'll leave, DNA
And I
under your
think that
fingernails.
to me, I think that it based on the fact that the defense asked the question on cross-examination of the sister, wasn't this a brand new shirt? And
Mhm.
she said, yes. Never worn. And she said, never worn. That the defense, knowing that, feels very strongly that that's exactly what that hair is. It's like you said, it's what my first reaction when I heard it, because it was a
Right.
bombshell. It was something we didn't know. So I
Right.
was like, well, that's somebody's pulling someone's hair as
Yeah.
they're, but then when you hear that maybe it could have been a family member, you're like, oh, well, that could have been that's where I came up with the theory that if it was in the clothes and they were
Mhm.
putting it back on, that maybe that happened. So when you hear it's never been worn before, I can't imagine a hair being that embedded in in the clothing from just going through a washing machine. Where as you're putting it on someone, it's going to wrap around their face. Like it doesn't seem
And it's a female hair.
right,
Let's get the crazy girl back that confessed. Okay?
right,
Maybe it's her hair. I don't know. Just
right,
not a detective, but
right. Even if the other two defense attorneys that were appointed have publicly touted. Yeah, so what
right.
he's pointing out, thank you for the $5, is that when the judge switched she did for a short period, there were other court-appointed attorneys assigned, and those lawyers said, I agree with everything the other lawyers said, and even said more. Like, so they were also, like she said, touting Richard Allen's innocence. And that's not something lawyers do. Like people think, oh, lawyers always going to say their client's innocent. I mean, that's not something that,
No. I mean,
well, there's one thing to say my client has always maintained their innocence,
right.
right?
Yeah, you
And
can tell the difference
right, you can tell the difference.
when an attorney is like phoning it
Adding
in
it.
or just like doing their job, representing their client zealously, and they really believe in their innocence, like David Yannetti and Alan Jackson. Like they are in it.
Right.
Somebody said in it, the hair still had the root attached.
Yep. Yep.
I
So
mean, let's get that girl that confessed and let's somebody go grab her
which
hairbrush.
obviously again leads you to think it's something ripped out of somebody's head.
All they need is reasonable doubt.
Right.
To me, that's reasonable doubt.
And, I don't know. I mean, she was dropped off by the sister. I can't imagine that I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, it's either
Mm.
family member or not. And I guess depending on family member, we'll hear what the defense's theory is. But it sounds like they're the ones that mentioned in opening that they thought the hair might be, according to Bob's notes, might be a relative. So I don't know if they're saying that I don't know if the defense thinks
Could
that
belong
a
to anyone.
relative
How about
in there.
testing it? How do you never test it?
That's what's shocking.
It's 7 years. How did nobody ever test it?
When the
That's,
defense mentions it in opening, it made me
oh,
think that they may think a family member might have been there. I mean,
no, it's because the prosecutor has been found to be a crook.
or
He's
that
planted
could be-
evidence before. The federal court said so.
right.
He framed a couple of other people already. Why? It's a female hair. Why would he test it? Why would
Right.
the prosecutor want it tested? His theory is that it was Richard Allen, not a woman.
Right.
Let's just hope that the defense drops the ball. Let's get them off the case. Let's get them off the case so somebody else has to start fresh, and they're never even going to see in this enormous file that there even is this hair. And then we'll be scot-free on the way to our conviction. We can check off another one, get
Right.
another conviction, because nobody seems to care about the truth anymore. They just want a conviction.
Yeah. Yeah. And
This case is making me mad.
it's so you've got people saying that this kind of criminal network is terrifying.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, yep, Richard Allen is 5'4". That is accurate.
You're there. What's it like? Is it like deliverance country? I mean, like, I've
mean-
never been to Indiana. I've never even driven through. I have no idea. Is it rural? Is it
It's
old?
insanely royal, like rural. They only have like Delphi.
Must be
There's
amazing people.
the courthouse, and there's like a couple blocks of downtown. It's cute. It has shops, but I think that is it. And then it's very rural. And like I didn't even understand when I was on that road 300 that from the cemetery and where the girls were dropped off. I was shocked at the amount of cars that were driving by because I didn't even think in my mind the road ended at the end. It's how like I felt like I was out in the middle of nowhere. And I kept thinking, where are all these people coming from? But
Wasn't
I've
there-
seen when I was in the courtroom, I saw Richard Allen look back at his wife a lot. And other than that, I was kind of paying attention to the jury and saw them taking notes and was looking up to see when they were paying attention and what they were listening to. And like I said, you could tell from their answers that they were. And someone, Estrella, from one of your viewers said, I was trying to highlight it. Here it is. Oh, no, here it is. I hope the jury sees Richard Allen standing up. From Bob's notes at opening, it says that the defense had Richard Allen stand up.
Is he shackled? Handcuffed? Is he wearing street
He's
clothes?
wearing regular clothes. Yeah, he's not like wearing a suit. He's just wearing like a dress shirt or a nice shirt. I don't know what he's got on his bottoms. I'm assuming that his legs are shackled, but I don't know. Maybe someone in the chat knows. And I didn't see his hands, but I would be shocked if they had his hands cuffed at the defense table.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I've been to Indianapolis. Obviously, that's, and I have a friend that lives in Carmel, and that's a beautiful town. It's very
Mhm.
quaint. It's, very nice. And then I've got my daughter-in-law's family lives in an area it's like so rural. It's crazy. And I, heard stories about towns that are the like home where the KKK started. So so that sounds like it's been an issue.
Yeah. I never saw the dead at Deer Creek. No, I was in Colorado for college and law school, so I did
I've
the
been to
West
Deer
Coast
Creek many
tours.
times. That's a very great venue.
Mhm.
Yep.
Somebody's telling us that we should quit playing with our hair because it's distracting and
Yeah.
very unprofessional looking. So, hey, girl, when you start your own YouTube channel, I'm sure you'll follow your own rules too. My hair's always in my face. I don't care. I'm going to move it.
It's
Yeah, I
mostly
mean,
me. I can't help it. Plus, it's heavy and hot. I was looking for my hair tie to put it
what a
up.
rude, well, like what a rude thing to come into someone's house and tell them how to run their channel and how they shouldn't play with their hair. I'm constantly with my hair. The male YouTube creators don't play with their hair because most of them don't have much of it.
Very true. Very true.
Unbelievable.
Lady D12 says facts. Melanie, tell them haters.
I know, it's like go somewhere else. Like what? Come on. So ridiculous. Her comments are so see? Cha-Cha's like, play with your hair all you want. How do people even notice? I don't know. They're not listening to what we say. They're just gonna criticize the way we look. Because that's the way women are
Right.
to other women. It's always the women that are the haters, which is always what like the people that are trashing Karen Reed on the cesspool of Twitter are always other women. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yes, that's where I went to law school, Travis, University of Denver. I went to DU. I went to CU undergrad, and then I loved Boulder so much that I'm like, I gotta stay here. What can I do? I know, I'll go to law school.
That's one way to stay.
Never like wanted to be a lawyer from the time I like was a kid. I just
It just
was
came
in my
to.
senior year of college, and I was like, what can I do to stay in Boulder?
Wow.
And I applied to law school super late, and I was waitlisted at DU, and I got in like the day before classes started. And my dad was like, they say they don't have a seat for you? What are they talking about? Just tell them you'll bring your own chair. And then I wound up getting in like the day before classes started, and I stayed in Boulder, and I would commute every day. It was the
Well,
greatest.
Denver has a great music scene these
Yeah.
days. So I don't know if it did back when you.
Red Rocks. I mean,
Well, yeah, but I
there's
mean,
always
like
been Red Rocks.
all the smaller venues have
Yeah.
like a really good,
In Boulder
a lot of good funk music, a lot of good out there.
I went to college with Big Head Todd. He was
Wow.
yeah, Big Head Todd and the Monsters started in Boulder, as did some of the Samples were a big band back then. And yeah, Fox Theater in Boulder is great too. Yep. Right, Aaron. No, Aaron. Nobody ever complains that Ian Runkle plays with his hair, but it might be because he's an elf wizard lawyer. That's great.
All right.
Well,
I mean, this was great.
thank you so much for having me.
Always. I love collaborating with you. And
I know,
both
it's
of our viewers, I think, were asking for it. The people love it. So
yeah.
even though we do play with our hair. I mean,
the
for those
duck?
of you that don't know, Melanie is hysterical.
What
So
the duck, man?
it's
They're
like,
prosecuting a guy for putting little rubber duckies in Canton that said they had stickers on the bottom that said FKR for Free Karen Reed. And then some other of the little rubber duckies had stickers that said IYK. And he would just leave them around town and kids would find them. They have charged him with like 10 felonies.
wait, IYK, what's
If
that?
you know, you know.
Oh, right. Wait, felonies?
10
Why?
felonies. Witness intimidation. Some of the duckies said Colin did it on the bottom.
Okay.
And he would leave them around like the pizza place owned by the father.
And that's
he's got a
witness
trial date coming up.
intimidation.
Witness intimidation, 10 felonies. They did a trash pull at his house. They found the envelope that the stickers were sent from makestickers.com. I'm going to plug them every chance I can because when the MSP went to makestickers.com and said, we want all the records of this guy ordering stickers from you, the guy said, yeah, get a warrant.
Exactly what you're
Makestickers.com. His
supposed to
name's
do.
Adam. He owns the company. Support.
I applaud him. Support him.
They
Yes.
do in Canton.
Wow. I just can't believe they're still doing all of this. They're
yes, they
worry
are.
about your own backyard, like with the cops killing women and, sexually abusing them. And I mean, what? It's crazy. 10
The
felonies.
DA is going down. It's been just in Turtle Boy's case. They just found out that the DA, the special ADA, and the top cop were like texting with these two women that set up Aiden Carney to get him arrested. It's like the stuff is dropping over there. It's like the dominoes are starting to fall. The judge is going to be taken off this case, I think, by January 1. This is going to be crazy. The
So
corruption
for
is
those of
being
you-
uncovered letter by letter by
For
Mark
those of you who
Betterow.
thought Karen Reed was over.
Yeah.
Melanie is still on top of every single aspect. Breaking news.
And now things are dropping because the retrial is supposed to happen in January. And they're dropping like flies over there. Every single investigator is under investigation. It's like they have no more witnesses left. It's gonna be crazy.
That's crazy. And it's just like things like that just show people like you can't trust
Can happen.
you can't trust anything.
Look
You
at
know?
CH putting the link for makestickers.com. I love it.
Where oh
I love the mods with that get it, our humor. Yeah, and that's the thing, because now that people have seen what went on with Karen Reed, they are more likely to believe this is a frame job. Where's the evidence?
and
You
yeah, I
know?
know Karen Reed's not over and it's going to retrial because
Yeah.
Stacey's like, well, it's not over. But I just mean you've
Right.
been covering all the motions, the
Right.
appeal work, everything since the first verdict, not just
Yeah.
it's about to go to retrial. I'm on it again. So
It's hard. It's because this is a very in-depth case. Like you can't just, you guys have
Right.
been covering this from jump. So I
Yeah.
send everybody over here to watch you for this.
I appreciate
That's
it.
interested
This is
because you
great.
guys have a very in-depth knowledge of it. And a lot
That's
of people enjoy that. So I'm glad that we got to do a
appreciate
little primer for the people and catch up on the 2 days of court that have already happened. And why are they having court on Saturday? Maybe because the jury's sequestered and they want to kind of
Right.
get through
Right.
it so that they can go home to their families.
Yeah, I wanted my husband to be able to come home
Thanks,
to his
Dark Willow.
family, but yeah, I'm leaving Monday. Now I've got to wait because I think I'm
Yeah.
going to drive Bob home and then he's going to come back in one car so that he has a car here because we drove here together. And then it's just going to be Bob unless somehow he keeps talking about dragging me back. I don't know. So we'll see, but
Innocent until proven guilty. Why is that so hard? Ashley Benefield, there's going to be a motions hearing tomorrow. If it's live, I'm going to cover it. Her sentencing is supposed to be Tuesday morning, so we're waiting to hear what happens with that jury issue. So yeah, I will cover. I'm doing Sarah Boone too, so we got a lot of things. But as you know, I'm always on the fly, so we'll see what happens. But yes, Ashley Benefield tomorrow. There's a motions hearing. Tuesday morning is sentencing. We're going to do both.
all right.
So there's
There
that.
you go. There you have it.
Thanks for
All
having
right,
me.
guys. Thanks for coming. Thank you all. Don't forget to like on your way out. However, I'm super impressed with all the thumbs up. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Did yours go up, Melanie? I always
Yeah,
like.
I mean, I got 1,000 now.
All right, well, keep going, guys.
1,000 likes. Just keep it. Helps the algorithm, help a girl out. Help some girls out. We're just over
Yep.
here trying to like raise our kids and like pay for everything. She's still lawyering. It's like a, moonlighting job for her, keeping
There
it
you go.
together. Women supporting women. Let's do it,
Women
ladies. I know you
supporting
do. I know you know how. Better than
Little
anybody.
cupcakes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Melanie. All right, guys. Catch you later.